Hey, Marco Polo. No one's ever thought of that before. You're number one today. Maybe you're number one every day. Sorry for coughing. Um, my mind just got distracted. I don't think we're going to have Ham, although it's always possible. But he had a call earlier, really early, and I was on it. So I can relay what I learned. I think I learned. I can relay. I'm not sure I learned that much. And we'll continue. We'll continue on. Do you know that in the English language, one continues, one doesn't continue on? It's redundant. Let's continue to pretend our life will never end. All right. Dobre utro. Check Peach. I heard the call. Oh, you did. You heard the call for Ham. All right. So let's see if I can. I didn't write anything down. Let's see if I can remember it and you can correct me. Basically, I think it was maybe 20 minutes. It might have been longer. It was supposed to be short. He really felt that G-Bucks is still very much in play, if that's what you call it. He thought that G-Bucks would be like Root, which I don't personally want to wait around as long as Root took to take root, but he thinks it'll start moving once the selling stops. G-Bucks could be up, have a 5-point spread, and it could climb with alacrity. Then he talked about Finger, and the most important thing he said about Finger is he hears there's a big buyer in the form of a fund out of either Singapore or Hong Kong buying the stock, and everything else you've heard before. I say it respectfully. It's just you have. And what else did he talk about? If Trump says anything, I'm not making fun. It's just the whole thing gets very repetitive. Dobre utro. Are you a Ruski? Dobre utro. Or are you a Czech? Tommy B. Well, that's what I thought was happening. I don't know if it's that his scent is still on all my clothing, but a lot of dogs are being very nice to me lately as I meet them. The owners aren't always very nice. They don't want me to say hi or whatever. But I figure he's corralling all of his dog buddies to get other dogs to say hi to me. And it's a sad Russia Jew. I don't know how to say Jew in Russia. I guess it's the same, right? Judah? I don't know if it's any different. I think the Russian language, I don't know if you do, but I think the Russian language is beautiful. It's very difficult, I think, but it's every. I can't, every. Maybe, I don't know where that would come from. Maybe in Hebrew, there's a spelling, or the V is a W. Yevre, 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 Yevre. Thanks for letting me know that. I'm going to try to remember it. My skill at languages is about as good as my skill at singing a song a cappella. Calm down. Yeah. He, I mean, he wasn't doing perfectly, but it's like he decided to go. Dobre dien. That's what it is. Dobre dien. Dobre dien. It's been so many years. But I think if I had studied it, Russian, I don't know about Czech. We took a few Czech lessons, but it was, when I say a few, that's what I mean. But I think I could have learned it because I had heard it when I was young. So maybe I could have pronounced things correctly. You know, there's, I don't know what you think, but Sturmer, and then the Macron, luckily the Prime Minister of Italy, Meloni, she's not going to go along with it, but the winds of war are coming again. The drums are banging. I think we should be okay, but there's we have to be ever alert for dramatic change, and I still stick with the fact that the stock market is going to have this blow off run to highs, but the stock market, the bond market is really starting to attempt to screw it up. You have to have the confidence of bond traders and bond investors. And if you don't, it doesn't matter what the Fed does. It doesn't matter what Trump does. And it's starting to show, apparently. Let me see if I can pull it up. It's starting to show, and I read this article, and I have to admit, it had some buzzwords I didn't quite understand. But the German bond market is now, and of course that's the euro. That's the problem with the Eurozone, is you still have national governments, but you're attempting to have a continent-wide bond market. I mean, they have their own, but it's all supposedly backed by you're trading in the euro and you're making decisions not in unison. Let me see if I can find this. It's already gone. Here it is. Goldman blows up the euro trade. This is written by Tyler Durden, Thursday, March 6, 2025. I don't know what this means. The European fiscal expansion trade is finished. Over. Pushed too much this week. I know what I think it means, but I'm not sure if he's just using a description or if there is such a thing like the carry trade. I don't think so, but I'm admitting my ignorance. It's actually written by Alberto Bassis, Goldman FICC trader, Backus. And he admits below content item will be perceived as too convoluted. I agree. Focused on irrelevant details and missing the forest for the trees or for the tree. I think markets are rightly focused on the forest, which is European fiscal expansion and Germany finally sinking or quitting or stopping being fiscally prudent. I also think this is Alberto Backus. I also think current pricing is projecting the forest in a dreamland rather than on planet Earth. All right. There was zero interest in the European rates space, he calls it. In other words, no one cared about what was going on in the bond market in Europe in January. Everything was about United States exceptionalism. That's January. Now, everybody's all over the European fiscal expansion, monetary policy expanding. This guy probably English, he's better at English than I am, but it's a different style of using the English language than American, I guess. Both trades are finished, over, pushed too much this week. So he's arguing both the U.S. exceptionalism and I guess the calm. Let's see what he says. The next step is either the fiscal story become a sovereign limited space story with bond vigilantes at work. That's what I'm talking about. The bond traders make up their own mind. Remember, Bill Clinton said, if there is such a thing as reincarnation, when I die, I want to come back to Earth as the bond market. The bond market's really powerful, and the traders are powerful. So he puts in parentheses, if you're long the euro currency, well, you better think twice. It's all right. Okay, so he's saying there is money to be made in fading the European fiscal story. So that's where I don't know. What's that story that you've been trading? Which side of that? But let's see what he says. Germany using German taxpayer money to guarantee other countries' national debt. And that's the problem with the euro. So Germany has been the strongest country, backs up Italy's debt, Greece's debt. Germany using the tail scenario, Germany using German taxpayer money to guarantee other countries' national debt. This is not what happened last week. All right, let's go to his summary. Nightmare. Europe announced a leveraging exercise. Leverage is expensive and it's finite. Another day like today, and the jump higher in bond yields will precipitate a sovereign yield sell-off that can become problematic. No kidding. The path from here is bifurcated. One, fiscal enthusiasm could feed into bond vigilantes action on some in other words, if they start printing money, the shorts, the sellers of bonds will be out in force. Two, we retrace the movement and start doing the arithmetic around the framework announced yesterday. All right, facts. Germany is issuing a new 30-year bond today, Bund, today. they will pay 50 basis points more since 2 weeks ago. That's huge. France will have an MLT auction tomorrow. They will pay 35 basis points for a 20-year funding, more for it, for a funding since their last refunding. This guy, I was one to first stress how important this week was. Once the possible European Union defense tool is approved before the EU Council, and as Germany is close to a deal between a bunch of three-letter things, the CDU, the CSU, SPD, I'd rather read about golf. The movement happening today is pushing the boundaries of fiscal expansion pricing beyond any reasonable probabilistic assumption. 3 big stories happened this week. We're talking, this guy trades in Europe. The EC approved a new leveraging exercise at the national level for defense spending. 2, a small fund for joint, a small plafond for joint funding via EU will be tabled to the Council. And 3, Germany finally put aside their fiscal moderation and will go big. I think this is very confusing, all this, and the way I'm reading it. But I think that's the biggest thing. If Germany starts giving up on their essentially tight monetary policy, inflation is coming, currency collapse is coming. I'm not saying right away. A lot of what I'm trying to get in your head, if you care, is not for tomorrow's trade necessarily. I think we have to get ready sometime between 2026, let's say this year is a freebie, and 2031, that sort of 5-6 year range. I think and skewed toward the front, I think we all have to get ready for the next generation, 2 decades. It's going to be different. It's okay. It's just you want to be in the right place. And you can make better decisions than I can if you know what it is. So I'm trying to do that. All right, so using his forest for the trees analogy, the trees, everybody's seeing the trees. The trees are the single European jurisdictions which will implement the framework. What framework? The forest is the fact that Europe is moving fast, moving quickly, and Germany is leading the effort. The forest, the story is missing the forest for the trees. The forest lives on planet Earth, though. And on planet Earth, the limit to borrowing is represented by your credit line allocated by key investors and reserve money around the globe. There's a limit to how much these countries can borrow and leverage their bond markets, leverage their spending without running into trouble. We feel like we don't have that limit under this modern monetary theory, and I forget the professor's name. She's relatively young, blonde. I can't remember her name. But we too will reach a limit. people won't want our bonds, but we'll be Chris Christopherson's cleanest dirty shirt. Europe is leveraging. Europe are doing a massive leveraging exercise. The last thing you want is a spike in sovereign bond yields. That is what is happening today. And this is the one threat to my scenario. And if it comes over here, it's frightening if the bond market collapses. If bond yields keep, this is from this Goldman Sachs guy. If bond yields keep jumping higher, then three things can happen. One, some sovereign, some nation, is facing issues in re-leveraging, considering it too expensive. The bond sell-off becomes brutal, levels become problematic, and you face bond vigilante, All right, so sorry. Добрый день. Let me see if it's working. I don't know what happened. Anyway, so scenario one in the European bond market is there could be a bond sell-off and it becomes brutal because a nation may not decide to go along. Second, Germany decides to use German money to save Europe and guarantees all European countries' national liabilities. And the third scenario is the bond market in Europe calms down. What is happening today, this is yesterday, I guess, is automatically limiting the ability to leverage in Europe. They're announcing huge new expenditures. The leverage works when the financing cost works. There are levels at which the cost of funding is too high and the exercise doesn't work. Another day like today, that was yesterday, and the numbers announced yesterday for raising money must be scaled down by at least a quarter, reduced by a quarter to reflect higher borrowing costs. It's not pretty over there in Europe, in the Eurozone. It's not pretty. Hey, Steve Mertz. I don't know why I went dark. I don't know. It might be my memory here. It might be the connection. British men will go fight in the Ukraine and leave their wives and daughters. That I don't know about that last part, but the first part, I don't think the UK can put together a football team, a U.S. sized football team, much less an army to go fight in the Ukraine. And Macron is saying he wants to go, and I think one other country. But Italy, Maloney, she said no, go fight it alone. So, Steve, yeah, I'll give you my email here, and I'm sure everyone else can just close their ears, close their eyes, and they won't see it. There is an email I've been sharing that I can use and you can use. It's my last name. It's just Fair and Balanced. Fair and Balanced. FARRAND Balanced at gmail.com. Farrandbalanced at gmail.com. So when I signed on, this is 20 minutes old now. G-Bucks was trading at 401. It was 401 to 417, 51,000 shares. This is 20 minutes ago. So the two things, it's up. It may have turned around G-Bucks, but the spread is wide, and that's pretty good volume for historically. NIX was 183, 180 to 183, 418,000 shares. On NIXI, I think NIXI can turn around at any time. I think it's behaving. It hasn't broken really out yet. Could have, but I don't think so. But I think it's strong, NIXI. I wish I had some more, more. Well, anyway, there is news coming out of Nixie at some point, evidenced by their previous announcement. And I think Nixie can break out finally, and maybe you get 8, 12. I think the people around the stock believe it can go to 20, and stay in the teens. But there is a short squeeze aspect to Nixie as well. I think I don't think it's going to happen today, but um, I really don't think it'll happen tomorrow morning. But I would get up early, pre-market. It might start happening tomorrow morning in Nixie. Finger is one. When I last looked, it was 134.91, 134 to 135, 112,000 shares. I think there's going to be a buzzing bzz, 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 going on around Finger starting next week sometime, and it's going to build to a crescendo by April 15th or so. And Finger looks strong to me in its trading. On the call with Ham this morning, what I pointed out that I see, I know it's probably just reaching for good news, but for a long time, that stock has sort of been trading around 105 up to 110, pressing down, in that range. Now it's around $1.40. Well, the last trade was 135, but basically in and around, up and down 140. That's a significant move. What it means to me is the selling pressure is meeting with buying. People who own the stock are not feeling a pit in their stomach, and there's new buyers maybe. So Finger looks good to me. And then Rail F, a Canadian company, 0.279. Are you out of your mind? It was 0.267 to 0.2798, 50,000 shares. I explained to you yesterday, I'm not going to do it again in long form, but I'll do it in short form. Railtown announced that they're acquiring this company, so it's in a quiet period. All of the investment bankers and brokers, institutional or retail, at Canaccord are prevented from soliciting orders. All of the players, whether it's inside the company or they're the major investors on the board of Railtown, they too can't buy the company. They can't. They're working on a negotiation, material information, which will have an impact on what people decide to do with the stock. They can't front run good news or front run bad news. They just can't do anything. And then, very interestingly, the pool of investors that they started marketing to was all these companies with their investors and their investment banks and their analysts, et cetera, and family offices, who are part, as it turns out, of the company they decided to buy. There's 160 companies inside of this company they're buying. So all of those people, well-heeled or well-knowledgeable, they can't buy. Nobody can buy. So the stock is down, no question. It's down from 38. So it's down, I don't know, a third, less than a third over the last 4 to 6 weeks. But I think that's a big part of it. The buyers can't buy. So what's the flip side of that? The flip side of that is once they, and It's in the press release. It's in the IR woman's Twitter account. They're going to come out with a definitive LOI, which I think is a little bit I don't know if that's oxymoronic or it's contradictory in any point. But anyway, a definitive LOI. So there'll be news, and then one would presume everybody can start buying. So I think Railtown, 4 weeks from the previous announcement, should be next week, I think. It's possible. Can't promise. What's my opinion of Judy Shelton? I'm not placing her. I know the name's been out there, and it's so I recognize the name, but what she is and what's her role, it's not coming to my head. Let me see if I can Google it. She's my girlfriend's sister. Oh, she's an economist. Oh, she's for a return to the gold standard. And she wrote some books, The Coming Soviet Crash, Money Meltdown, Good as Gold. Judy L. Shelton is a senior fellow, author of Good as Gold, How to Unleash the Power of Sound Money. Well, maybe that's where I've heard her name. And then here's her solution, according to CNN. Judy Shelton, a controversial economist who has been floated as a potential pick by Trump to lead the Federal Reserve, has proposed a radical solution. The Fed should aim for no inflation at all. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Currently, the Fed targets a stable inflation rate where prices rise at a slow but steady pace. Stable inflation is an oxymoron because it means it's not stable, is what she said. That's a controlled economy. That's not going to happen. So how is she going to do it? Switch to gold? The Giuseppe, the banksters, the Fed, the thing they're scared about more than inflation by a long shot is deflation. They don't want a depression. Well, here's an economist from Kamala Harris's team. Deflation can become a spiral with no end because there is no way for monetary policy to counter it. Bill English, a Yale University professor, said deflation can be hard to escape because eventually the Fed runs out of room to cut rates. All right, this is boring to me. Um, anyway, she wants to go to a gold standard, and I don't think a gold standard is in the cards. There may be a loose band. They'll come up with something, or gold just becomes part of a basket of securities. That's what Rickard says, actually. It could become a basket of securities that backs the special drawing rights, and the special drawing, the IMF basically becomes the Fed for the entire world. Uh, Trump, I think, and Rubio both recognize that the United States is not the single most powerful country in the world. We're not all alone. And my guess is Europe is finished. Their policies, their industrial base are worse than ours. And who's going to lead Europe? Who's going to lead Europe? Not Macron. Meloni, maybe she could get it, but whoever's in Germany, I don't even know. Schultz, I don't know. I don't think it'll be Germany. Who's going to run? I think Germany's out of the equation. Not Germany, the Eurozone. So then who does it leave? It leaves, and if I were Germany, I don't know why they should make up with Russia, widen their railroad tracks, and start supplying Russia and Asia. But I think it'll be Russia, China, and the United States. And I think Trump is trying to make sure that it's Russia, China, and the United States, rather than Russia and China, and then the United States. I think Trump is trying to make a tripolar world rather than a bipolar world, as quickly as he can. India factors in there too, but India, would India be a fourth pole of power, or would it just be a swing ally to either Russia or China, depending on the issue? I don't know. And then, of course, you got the whole continent of Africa, the whole continent of South America. But for the time being, to my eyes, it's Russia, China, and the United States. And so then people make fun of Trump for talking about the Panama Canal and Canada and Greenland. But I think if you look at it in the context of trying to fast forward what North America is facing from a huge Chinese Navy, which isn't as good as ours, a hardworking Chinese labor force, which they apparently have population problems. They might have a bond market problem themselves. They have malinvestments, but they have the technology that Bill Clinton might have allowed them to get at Los Alamos. They certainly have the technology for stealth and fighter airlines that George W. Bush let them have when he got cocksure and they walked one of our jets down to the ground and took it and reversed engineered it. I personally think that Obama, Biden, Hillary totally sold out. And China now has some of the greatest universities in the world. They have robots, they have factories, they have economic relationships around the world. And China's ready to be the big industrial nation of the world who and a huge consumer base. That's what India has potentially is becoming a huge consumer base. But China doesn't have energy. They're building nuclear power plants, I think, recklessly because I think it's scary as hell. But that's what they're doing. They're building coal plants, which for all of you who, like myself, who were frightened by climate change, Trump brags that our air is cleaner than it ever been. Well, we just moved our factories, in essence, to China. I mean, they're Chinese factories, they're not ours. But the crap we used to make here and sell at the A&P, they make not over there and they sell it at Costco. So where's the smog and the soot being created? Over there, not here anymore. So the one thing China needs is oil and natural gas, and they signed these agreements with Russia because in their wisdom, the brainiacs around Hillary Clinton and Obama, and frankly, it's left over from the Popinjay George W. Bush and the neocons, they decided to isolate Russia, and it's totally backfired. Anyway, what I think Trump's trying to do is instead of having Russia and China as one group that we have to fight, he's trying to make sure Russia's separate from China. The United States of America is strong, and then it's a three-way duking it out rather than a two-way. And in that context, we need the Arctic. We need to be safe from the Arctic Circle, the warming waters. We need Greenland. And in that context, we need Canada. Is it empire building? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not giving a policy view. But the world is going to break down into three spheres of influence in Trump's thinking. I think that's how he's thinking. I don't know how to put Africa or India in that or the Middle East, but those will be client states, I think, to those three powers. Anyway, I don't know how I got off on that with Judy Shelton. I think a gold standard, you go back to the mercantile system, it's not going to happen. Gold standard is a disaster. Oh, I know what I was saying. I don't think in the reset of the world's the new financial system, that it's going to come anywhere near New York City or Washington, D.C. I don't think it's going to be the IMF. Now, it may be special drawing rights, and maybe the IMF bureaucracy is somehow part of it. I don't think it'll be in Europe. I would rather have it in Russia than in China as a first reaction, but my guess is it'll end up coming out of China. Maybe Hong Kong, maybe one of those Chinese cities named after the menu at one of our restaurants, Sichuan. I don't know. Europe is cooked. Well, one theory is that's why the gold's coming over here. Europe will be all right. I mean, it's wealthy and it's well educated. I think the biggest problem Europe has facing it, potentially, when they started noticing it and calculating it off of the north of I guess the UK, off the north of Ireland and the UK, but kind of near. I guess kind of near Norway too. Anyway, the great ocean current, which comes from the Caribbean and goes up to Europe. It's a big warm river, massive river of water, comes up from the tropics, goes alongside the United States, and then cuts over to the north of, it's sort of that whole area of Greenland, Iceland. Iceland's to the left. But anyway, up in there, the North Sea. And then it cools and it goes back down to the depths, and it flows to the south. And I guess this current, parts of that current can take 1,000 years, but the upper part is more rapid than that. In the history of the ice caps, there's two theories really, but the one thing is that current stopped when, in Canada particularly, it wasn't called Canada, big pools of fresh water stored up behind ice as the melting occurred, and then that fresh water came into the sea, the Atlantic. It wasn't called the Atlantic. It was named after a general, a dinosaur general. I don't know what it was called before we were around, but it stopped that current, and it brought freezing temperatures. Europe is a big peninsula, all the way from England all the way to the Urals, to a lesser extent, warmed by the this current. And when they started measuring it, I don't know, 80 years ago, 70 years ago, there were hundreds of these, like when you take the plug out of your bathtub and the water goes down, those siphons, not spigots, but those whirlpools that go down. The last time I read it, and I've stopped reading because it just gets me so scared, and I got to focus on my own life. But the last time they sent out the boats to look, they found less than a dozen. In my memory, they found 6, and that was 10 years ago. So it's possible that this big current of warm water stops. And it doesn't take a long time to feel the effect. I mean, in our heads, we figure, oh, it'll be gradual. The point I brought up about that last time, it might have happened over a 5,000 year period is what I remember. But that's very short geologically, but it's a lot to us, right? 5,000 years. But if that current stops suddenly, and the Arctic is destabilized by warming, Europe and London and New York could experience freezing winters, Moskva type of winters. Anyway, it's all speculation. It's all scary. Vortex, the Gulf Stream, yes. Got to love the 25-cent spread on G-Bucks, no volume. Yeah, I think, David, that's a decent interpretation of what's going on in G-Bucks. I do think that. Europe is now sleeping in the bed they made themselves, forming the EU, and then opening up their borders. Good borders make good neighbors. I don't know. I figure if you have a border, they either better pay rent or not stay too long, or be sleeping with you. The EU was formed for this globalist agenda, banks. It's all for the banks. Do you think the Panama Canal that Trump announced, America's taking control of the Panama Canal? No. Right now, it's just one man who runs BlackRock. I don't know. And that man ran the whatever it is, all the wokeness. That man drove the wokeness in American boardrooms. Anyway, the euro was created for the banks, in my opinion, and it was for control. And I think Richard, I've said it before, but the flaw in the euro, the EU, as compared to the United States, it's many languages, but everybody you meet there probably speaks at least 2 languages, but most speak 3 or 4. English always seems to be one of them. It could be Russian, German. The Spanish speaking in Europe isn't as strong as it's here, but it's there, and Italian. But anyway, the French. So the mobility issue for workers in Europe, I think it took a generation or 2, but it was solved. They learned each other's languages. They learned English. And so that one flaw, probably you could argue, is gone. But the other flaw is just what I just described. Each nation is in charge of its own bond market. Each nation is in charge of its own fiscal policy. And then you've got this thing up above it. It's not the same as it is in the United States. The United States has one fiscal policy. Yes, there's states who have to balance their budgets, but it's one bond market for the federal government. They don't really have that there, and it's a structural problem for the EU. They could never have a strong man or woman come in and just change everything overnight. Hey, John, I was listening to somebody talking about somebody I'd never heard before, and I don't remember his name, but he's actually more interested in palladium than platinum, but he's interested in both palladium and platinum. Do you have any political contacts? No. That will admit the existence of MMTLP in conversation. MMTLP doesn't exist. It does not exist. I have a file over there. I think I could show it to you, but it'd take too long. But MMTLP ceased trading on December 13th, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And it was delisted. It has no board of directors, no management, no investors. It does not trade. It does not have articles of organization. MMTLP does not exist. I think maybe what your question is does anyone admit that there are shares which used to be alleged to be MMTLP sold that did not exist, counterfeit shares. Those shares now represent NextBridge. The reason I've become very, as someone said here, negative, argumentative, Debbie Downer, I think time allows, and I do think attorneys are involved, which means they're lying. Bankers, big hedge funds. Now, they may not have to get involved until the final decision, and they may do it, you know, they might meet on an ocean liner in the middle of the Indian Ocean to talk about it. But all the big boys, they're all men. I can't think of a woman involved. Time allows them to move their trades. And in the case of what you call MMTLP, it's NextBridge. NextBridge, it is my understanding, and I'd love, maybe he'd do it someday. I'll get 100% on here. One of the smartest, as far as I can tell, caring, most caring, concerned, and he can weave all of the information into an answer or into a narrative, which takes a powerful brain. He's a smart guy, and he could explain all of this. There's a couple others. There's one guy who called me who didn't want me to ever say anything. I'm trying to remember who that was. And there's other people. And Junk Savvy, I would ask her, I would love to have Junk Savvy on here, but she's got a face for movies and a voice for radio. So she has other gigs. But she's busy, and I think it wears her down a bit. But there are people that can explain it much better than I can. But I understand that NextBridge is already trading in Germany. How they do it is fraud. How they do it is illegal. They could be caught if Ann Wagner got off her ever-expanding rear end and actually cared. Instead, she just gets a memo from Goldman Sachs and declares the consolidated audited trail a violation of privacy. Every time you go into the airport, they take your picture. Every time you use your cell phone, they record your conversation. Every time you use your debit card, they have a record of that trade. Every time you use Venmo, they know what you bought. Every time you use Gmail, the internet. But this is where she's going to put her plump feet in the sand and stop the invasion of privacy. She's going to protect the right of criminals to sell shares that don't exist, to collude. She's going to protect time and sales, volumes, directions, names, all because it's an invasion of privacy. She's a piece of work, that woman. Complete piece of work. By the way, Pete Sessions coming out with something today. I'll try to remember to talk about that. It doesn't really have anything to do with MMTLP, NextBridge. So anyway, Richard, as far as I know, they're already making a market in Nextbridge, which is a private company and does not trade. And this is why I don't trust. I don't know any. I've never met Johnny Tobacco. Everyone says he's a great guy, and he's got he's got that voice that works really well on Squawk Box calls. But I don't know anything about him, and I know that the company thinks highly of him. So I'm not saying anything bad about him, but I simply do not trust at all if NextBridge tokenizes its shares or if it somehow gets its shares on a blockchain. Everyone thinks that's the solution. Just like moving shares to Saudi Arabia is the solution. Everyone suspects the priest, but almost no one considers the deacon. So he does it better. It's a Norm Macdonald joke. But it's not the tracking of the real shares that's the problem, in my opinion. It's the selling of shares which don't exist in markets away. So what I guess the argument would be with NextBridge, you'd put it, the only way you could trade it is on blockchain. That's it. And so you're going to wave your wand. Well, guess what? NextBridge doesn't trade right now. The only way you can trade it is not to be able to trade it. Maybe in an estate sale, you can get a lawyer to do a private transaction. But even the fact that NextBridge does not trade, they're already making a market in it, illegally trading it from Germany. And what I understand, all you have to do is get one share of stock trading here in the United States, set up one of these crappy market makers, and you can flood the market, and Ann Wagner doesn't care, Adina Friedman doesn't care, and Ursula Andress or whoever runs the EU doesn't care. And they don't even keep a record of it over in the EU. So that's one big problem with NextBridge right now. I think it's already trading. The other big problem, which Junk Savvy can explain much better than I, is that the regulators, the SEC, FINRA, I'm sure Ann Wagner, I'm sure if they ask the 100th most powerful woman in finance that works at FINRA, I forget her name, and the 5th most powerful woman in finance who runs, not FINRA, NASDAQ, who runs NASDAQ, they won't know. The argument is that NextBridge is a public company. So as a public company, as you're asking the question, is there a short position? And they're willing to say yeah. And it's okay because it's a public company. What I'm telling you, Richard, is that Gibson Dunn, to pick on one high-powered law firm, works for the SEC and works for the criminals. And they get it done. They get it done. And the legal system isn't about morality. It all depends on what your definition of is. That's all it is. So I don't have anybody high up at the SEC I walked the halls of Congress. I didn't find anyone except one aide, and I tried to save his card aside. I picked up 150 cards. I thought I had written on it, but I can't find it. One aide who cared. No one else knew about it. They don't know about it. My broker friends, wealth advisor friends, all been in the industry 40 years. They don't know anything about it. They have no clue. So it's well hidden. I don't expect miracles out of the Trump administration on MMTLP, and I'm thinking of ways that I can maybe change that. And I have an idea, but I think it'll be ineffective. But I'm going to try, I think. Hey, Bill Michael. Yeah, farrandbalanced@gmail. Once you go dark, Pam Bondi will go after the short sellers? I don't think so. Guys, BlackRock just bought the Panama Canal with a phone call to Trump. That's awfully nice of you to say, Clay. Even though I'm pretty much of an asshole sometimes, I get upset and all that. But thank you very much. It's very kind of you. And I feel like I've made a lot of friends here too. So it's not a one-way street in that sense. I mean, I benefit a lot from everybody here, and see where it goes over time. Senate banking, Richard K. Maybe I should have Richard K. on. The Senate Banking Committee voted to advance the nominations of Jonathan McKinnon. They're going to get rid of that Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And Bill Pulte to the director of the Federal Housing Finance Agency. Well, I've listened to Bill Pulte. I don't know him. That's a great move for him because the government's going to start selling properties. He's going to build his Rolodex, and he can build his housing empire, real estate empire. But he does sound like an honest guy. We'll see. Oh, you had a conversation with Elon? Wow. That would be great. That would be great. I think if I don't know how much time he would give to thinking about it, and he's probably already thought about it. But I think the things I'd tell him about this issue, I would probably point out the articles on the Anson funds where trillions of dollars are siphoned out of the United States without closing transactions and no taxes paid. Elon has the ability to investigate. You and I don't. But I think it's done for BlackRock, Bluestone, Red Riding Hood, Goldman Sachs, Ken Griffin, SAC. It's done for all the big pools of money and for the criminals to benefit. I think I would start with the fact that if you stopped it, or if you just traced it and taxed it and created a 1099, which would probably stop it, you could increase tax revenues. And then I think I'd point out to him that the leverage is massive. He knows that. I bet he knows it. But this is very much a bunch of overpaid and as I heard somebody say it, overly credentialed wankers trying to imitate the commercial banking system with securities. And I think securities are they're using the lethargy of most of us to expand the number. Wow, the Nixie CEO was just on CNBC. Did you guys see that? I don't watch CNBC. I don't see it. I don't see it. CNBC. So anyway, I would point that out. And then, Steve, I think I don't want to. I think where Elon should go is every stock on the NASDAQ and below. And hell, Doge should just take over NASDAQ or run it as a conservatory. They don't have to take it over. Fire everybody there. There's not a single one of those people leading that company. Same with over the counter. Fire everybody. And settle the trades. And then you could have anyway, it's too long to list. I have about a dozen things that they should implement. But then you would have a vibrant capital formation market, which could fuel the growth in American industry. And maybe someday the next Elon Musk would come along and build the transport system like Star Trek, from being out of a garage funded by neighbors, going on the over-the-counter market, raising a little money, finding an investment bank, having a true price discovery. Sometimes the stock is higher, so you can buy it back. You can use the stock to buy other things. Sometimes it's low, so you can buy your shares back. But use all the strategies to create wealth, but more importantly, create jobs and technologies for America. Live TV. Subscribe now. I don't want to subscribe. There you go. The spring could have huge rallying months, says Fundstrat's Tom Lee. This is just the end of a corrective phase, and I think we're going higher. That's great that you're talking to Elon. So Frankie is saying Nick's has to break the 193 level now, and it looks like it is. Price is down, but money flow is positive for the last week. Acquisition news is supposed to come any day. Does Starmer think it's 1914? When they started that war, they didn't have tanks. To my, it's been a long time since I read anything about World War One, but to my memory, they didn't have tanks right away. But it was Churchill who put them in place. But I could be wrong. That war was supposed to be over by Christmas. I think it was something like 3 months, and it ended up being what, 4.5, 5 years, 6 years? I can't remember. It caused the Russian Revolution, and oh man, what a change. If this Singapore fund gets going, are halts, are they good or bad for retail? It depends if you have your papers or not. According to the information I have just received, the CEO went on CNBC and named the company they're going to acquire. Aura AI. Everything's AI. Do you think there's a saturation point to AI? So Aura AI has an app. That's good. They have an app. They have an app. So Aura AI turns images into stunning AI generated videos, professional AI shots, and more. Watch our kids' AI cartoon. Text to image. Aura AI transform your worlds into unparalleled artistic creations. Wow. I'm not very I have zero technology skills, but this looks like something that everybody would want to do. Is there competition? Probably. But I know that I would love to take a picture of Lucky, put it up on AI, and see him smile and run around again. Fun. Transform your ideas into reality with the power of artificial intelligence. Work, prepare and share your sketches in mere seconds. Education, craft your slides without searching for images online. I could use it for these talks. Image to video, generate AI videos from your social, create product ads with AI, professional shots. Starry, starry night. Try Aura AI video generator. You're just one click away. You're just a shout away. So the question is, if this is it, I'm sure there's plenty of companies that have a similar name. The question is, how much do they pay to buy this company? Oh, it could be Aura Link. All right. Could be a completely different company. All right, let's see. Aura Link. Aura. I like Aura AI, but it's probably already got all of the funding it needs. Aura Link is a solar company. Step into the future of energy. Why Aura Link Solar? Energy you control, wallet for. I'm not as thrilled about that. Let's see how Nixie is trading. NIXX. Let's see how this CNBC interview did. I can't tell you how it did. Trucker's new podcast with SBF is a must watch. They talk about corrupt Gary Gensler. Tucker's new, so that's Tucker, you know him, with SBF. SBF is Sir Bill Farrand. SBF. There's Big JR. 9 of the MMTLP brokers involved just received. Wow, Big JR should come on here. 9 of the MMTLP brokers involved just received an order from the judge in BK to produce all financial documents. Busy Brands has a space right now. That's another guy. Busy Brands is the best. So if you guys want to go to Busy Brands, I can probably see if he's saying anything. Breaking.
Very expensive mistake. You can sort it by date. So if you do just today,
so breaking MMAT, MMTLP, MMATF, TRCH, subpoena.
Yes,
to produce documents
so that people can see them, have access, and then we'll make them prettier. You can make them pretty.
Breaking news from Junk Savvy. Metamaterials bankruptcy trustee issues notice of issuance of subpoena to produce documents to custodian of records for Anson Funds and Citadel Securities and more. Ex parte motion for order requiring custodian of records for Citadel Securities and Anson Funds. Wow. To appear for examination pursuant to FR Banker RP. Christina Lovato, you know what? She should put in. Hopefully she can end up with 18% of the NewCo. Christina Lovato, Chapter 7 trustee, by and through her unsigned counsel, intends to serve a subpoena to produce documents on the custodian of records for Citadel Securities and records for Anson Funds USA. Awesome. Huge. This is in a court. She obviously has permission. She has subpoena power. It's awesome. It's huge. Now, I don't know, Anson Funds is based in Canada, but they do business here probably as Anson Funds. So they have to produce their USA records. This is awesome. Christina Lovato, Chapter 7 trustee for the estate of Metamaterials, Inc., by and through her undersigned counsel, respectively applies to this court for an ex parte order requiring the custodian of records of Citadel Securities to appear as set forth in a subpoena to be issued pursuant to Federal Rule of Bankruptcy Procedure 9016 at a time, place, and date to be mutually agreed, or if no such agreement is reached, upon no less than 14 calendar days. Awesome. Awesome. Possum, possum, possum. All right, Junk Savvy's talking.
Somebody's asking me to repeat the list. So guys, while we're here, we're going to have more and more people pouring in. So I apologize if I'm going to repeat myself over and over, but what we've got is breaking news that the trustee in the metamaterials bankruptcy case has petitioned the court to issue subpoenas and demands to appear for examination. Subpoenas to produce documents. And the entities so far that we have, Palicaris letting us know that there will be 9. Right now we have 6. We have Citadel Securities, we have Anson Funds, we have Charles Schwab, we have NASDAQ, which is an SRO, we have DTCC, and we have FINRA. I can imagine next up, we're probably going to see the SEC and potentially 2 more brokers or potentially a market maker. Are we going to see yes?
Yeah. TD Ameritrade just dropped. I'm downloading that now.
Well, Schwab, TD Ameritrade, it makes sense that you would do both.
Did Virtue drop already?
I don't know if Virtue's on the list yet. Okay, that's 7. We got 2 more, folks.
So one real quick thing, when you guys were talking about Pam Bondi stating something, wasn't it stated by the SEC that they were no longer going to take on any legal actions or unless it was approved at the highest level?
Yeah, so there's been a couple things, Jonna.
Yeah.
Number one, there was the assertion that they were, whoever it was, were not going to defend administrative judges. And then also there was the SEC commissioner, acting commissioner Ueda, saying that they have suspended all new investigations. That yes, you are correct that if they are going to pursue an investigation, it has to be approved at the executive level. I believe that announcement also indicated possibly subpoenas were going to be suspended, but it did not say in particular that ongoing investigations would not continue to be pursued. So just wanted to provide that clarity as well. So if, guys, for example, there is a continuing investigation on MMTLP, but they would have to go to the highest levels, i.e. to Commissioner or Acting Chairman UA to get permission to apply for subpoenas. So. Okay, guys, what's next, Kim? I feel like we need a drum roll. So I'm going to repeat the list one more time, guys. These are subpoenas for information as well as requests to appear for examination, which we more commonly know as depositions. So they want to bring them in and ask them some questions. It is so far right now, Citadel Securities, Anson Funds, Charles Schwab, TD Ameritrade, NASDAQ, and FINRA. Did I get them all? NASDAQ. Oh, DTCC, guys. DTCC, which potentially, I don't know, maybe, Jerry, you have some insights. DTCC, would that include, because they are the parent company of DTC and NSCC, would it include those as well, or would they have to be filed separately?
Look, this is speculation. I could be absolutely wrong, but I would think that they need to be filed separately because they're separate entities.
That's
but I could be wrong. Did you hear me?
I did. I heard you. Also, guys, wanted to let you, well, we'll find out, right, Jared? We'll find out. So, guys, now would be a fantastic time. Of course, as we see downsizing in the agencies such as the SEC, and other agencies, but now would be a really good time for a whistleblower. So just want to put that out there. I was neglectful and did not mention that Wednesday. Sorry about that. You know who you are. But especially if you are someone, for example, at the SEC that is going to be let go, now would be a really fantastic time if you have information that would be of value to this community and potentially to the trustee in the MetaMaterials bankruptcy case, which potentially, guys, does involve data for MMTLP. Now would be a really good time for a whistleblower. Not only can you, quite frankly, do the right thing, but you can make some money on it. So if you are at any of these organizations that were just mentioned, and potentially others, including NSCC, OCC, OTC, definitely the SEC, FINRA, as well as any of these brokers, please reach out to the trustee and do the right thing.
We got another one just dropped.
Drum roll.
Trade station.
That's kind of a no-brainer, right?
That's Jean.
That's good. It should be on here. Love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry.
Give me a second, guys.
Sorry, we're all excited. Guys. We're all
George, hold on, guys. George just posted something's up on the nest. Go ahead and read it, Savvy. I'm trying to get him in here. He's on the road, so you guys give me a second.
I'm not seeing it. Oh, here we go.
That's busy.
So this is from George Packers, guys, posted just a few minutes ago. With a nice picture of him with what looks like probably a glass of scotch and a stogie. Anyway, guys, it says, milestone day, more to come. Enjoy this moment. Sorry, guys. Thank you, MMAT and MMTLP family, for your patience and unwavering support through this journey. Special thanks to our diligent trustee, Ms. Lovato, and hardworking legal team. It takes a village. Happy hunting season. So, yeah, he looks like he's going hunting there. Anyway, guys, sorry. This is what happens when I don't sleep. Busy, darn it. Darn you. Completely unrelated, guys, but yeah, still very important. But today is the day that, quite honestly, I have been waiting for 6 to 8 months. As soon as they announced that West Christian was retained by the trustee, even before that, John and I, you and I used to talk about that many times, about how there is an opportunity in bankruptcy, a la, the Sorrento Silex case. This one's a little bit, of course, a little bit different. And then since then, Northwest Bio, of course, the judge ruling on two different things. One was denied, the other was approved to move into discovery. So there may be some potential discovery on market makers like Citadel and Virtu, potentially GTS. But we've waited for this for a long time, and it's nice that it's finally happened. And like I said, guys, and I apologize for repeating myself, West Christian indicated in our interview with him that Sharon did acquire trading data for Torch and MMAT, and that there was a meritorious case for spoofing and other market manipulation that he wasn't willing to speak about publicly at the time. But he did disclose that he was unable to acquire data on MMTLP because, number one, DTC would not cooperate. But, actually, in light of, and I wish Curtis was here, but I see Gandalf is here, of course, the notion that potentially they did not clear through the DTC, that it was all done broker to broker. Maybe the DTC didn't actually have data. But if they didn't have data, then why are they the ones issuing the allotment list? But we'll put that aside for now. And then, of course, the brokers didn't cooperate. So, again, MMTLP is always the exception. There's an opportunity for Wes, it appears, to acquire additional data. And, of course, Meta being the issuer of MMTLP, MMTLP would certainly apply here. Wes also indicating he could not say specifically, so I kind of did my savvy question. And he said that there was correlation between the nefarious actors, the TEL members that manipulated and investors in Torch and MMTLP, between that list and the DJT list that Devin Nunez published twice. There were actually two different lists. Citadel, Virtue, StoneX, G1, and several others. Those are just the ones I remember. So there is correlation. Go ahead, Busy.
At Trace Station too. It just dropped for now.
We know that.
Another one just
Busy.
dropped too. Virtue.
Virtue. That's the one that Ham says is going out of business.
Seafood. Where's Ham?
I'm going to chime in here. I'm going to chime in on
Go ahead.
Who's the chimer?
You know, we've all been, and I
Oh,
let
it's
me
the other.
qualify
It's the
this.
better
I've never
JR.
been one to call out names or, you know, hammer on people, and I'm not doing that now. But I do think that it's awfully suspicious that we've been seeing tweets being deleted, people backpedaling, you know, people disappearing, because all of that stuff is fair game in this process of getting information from these 9 organizations. So, you know, and Curtis said it today, and I knew exactly what he was talking about, but the tears are going to start flowing, you know, and there's one individual that has a space that's talking about who's getting put in handcuffs by the indictments. Well,
Drew
you know,
Diligence?
I certainly hope that individual is just here because he cares so much about how we lost money and has been trying to educate us, because that particular individual's ass is fair game in this process.
Drew
And if he's
Diligence?
working for one of those groups, that's problematic. So
Drew Diligence?
that's all I'm going to say about that.
Drew
Let's
Diligence?
go to Ham. Savvy, go ahead, and then we'll go to Ham after you. Go ahead.
I was about to say good morning. It's afternoon, guys. This is unusual for me. Good afternoon. Welcome to the mic.
Hi, everybody. I'm sorry. I am very emotional.
This is
right
syntax.
now.
This-
It's been such a long journey. You know,
She
we
works
talk
really
about,
hard.
and I'm just gonna let the emotion come out because, you know, I know there's a lot of people who've been struggling since the halt.
No
This
crying
is
in
something
baseball.
that, you know, I was introduced to the shenanigans and the corruption. I think June, 21, the merger, right? And the fighting and watching a company that I cared so much for, and so many people did. They had the vision of what this company could do for our world, right? And George, the CEO, and the amazing man that he is, and the way he interacted with us, and the hope that we had, and to watch, you know, as the dividend began trading and not understanding, and then the whole process and everything that has taken such a toll, and to watch this company as it was just driven into bankruptcy, going to DC in desperation, trying to tell Congress they're trying to bankrupt it because you're trying to get out of their liabilities. And I was so heartbroken when they removed George. And I was telling them in Congress, like, this is by design. And the beauty in it is, as much as this has been a struggle and as difficult as this whole process has been, to watch systems just fail, absolutely, unequivocally fail the people that they're supposed to protect. But the serendipitous point that I'm trying to make is, it has been so painful to watch this and the bankruptcy.
True.
But in this, and the trustee, and there's the beauty in this person, this individual, and working with George to uncover what we can now hope to find out with these subpoenas. And it's disgusting that it's getting to this point, but we all stood here behind George, and now we can finally get truth. And I know that I am not the only one who's had many, many struggles in this process. And I am just grateful for all of you. And I just wanted to send my heartfelt just love to every one of you for being here, for standing and saying, you know, this is wrong, and calling for truth and light. Thank you, Busy. Thank you, Junk, for having this space. Kim, thank you so much. and I know Whiskey, or there's so many people who've been so integral in the background who just did not stop. I'm not gonna lie, I hit a point when they removed George and the company went bankrupt, or my heart was crushed, and it was really hard. But there was people who kept fighting, and thank you guys. And I was, removed. I didn't stop working, but this is the type of thing that will rejuvenate us, and I'm so grateful for George. And I'm rambling like I typically do, but thank you guys.
She worked very hard that I saw.
Let's go with Phineas.
All right, Phineas.
Hey guys, how's everybody doing? Good?
I think we are, Phineas. How are you doing?
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm so excited. I'm in a room about 200 or 300 people and I just want to scream.
Go for it.
But I can't. No. They'll look at me like I'm some kind of maniac. But anyways, I got two questions. They're kind of clarifying questions. Syntax, I think, mentioned a little bit, but we're all excited because this will help us to bring the truth out. And mainly regarding, we'll be looking at getting accurate share count out of this process.
Or partially accurate.
I think this is going to show us the criminals. I think this is going to show us the level in which they are willing to go to make money off of the backs of investors and companies, and the destruction that they're willing to allow in our capital markets, and not just from the market makers, the hedge funds and such, but our regulators, right? Because we know that they were reaching out and saying there was a problem. I think this is going to uncover like the just giant scandal that we know is hiding behind all these details.
And
yeah, hopefully Mr. Trump or President Trump will be watching, right?
Yeah, if I can add, Phineas, Brian hinted at it. This is not specifically about just trading data. There is communications. Hang on just a second, guys. I'm sorry, my phones are blown up, both of them.
The falsehood of getting it to
this
start
is about
trading.
Communications, emails, correspondences. This could potentially demonstrate who knew what when. Were these market makers, Citadel and Virtue, involved in the decision to halt MMTLP? Was Schwab via Hilltop Security, who sat on the UPC committee, were they informed as well? So it is not just about potentially share count or specific trading data. There is a lot more that can be revealed through this. Who knew what and when? Not only that, SEC is not named so far in the 9, but if there is any discovery that is acquired through any of these 9, and I'll list them out again for you guys, give me a second, then it could potentially implicate others. Let's look at TradeStation. We know, I've been discussing this over the last few days, just wrote another report on this. TradeStation lied to their investors. They said that they could not fulfill their obligations because the certificates were loaned out. That is a lie. They do not loan certificates. And then, of course, they indicated that we can't fulfill our obligations. And so is that potentially these, 3 brokers? It's TradeStation, Schwab, and TD Ameritrade, specific to the lending program, which is where I and many others back that the large amount of potentially counterfeit shares emanated from. Who did they loan them to? So, guys, this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. I have a feeling that once this discovery is made, the subpoenas, the information, the depositions, all those things happen, I think we're going to see more. But it is not just about getting a share count. There's so much more to be acquired here.
Well, John, too, I think...
Okay, one last question, okay? Then, I'm sorry, Syntax.
That's Phineas.
What kind of this is kind of an open question, but I'm concerned, what kind of time frame are we looking at? And I'm thinking out loud, can TradeStation, Schwab, Ameritrade, and other people involved, can they keep pushing this out for indefinite? Or is the judge in this bankruptcy case have control over time? Can he tell everybody, hey, you're going to be on court October 1st, and if you're not,
they can get dragged out.
JR, do you want to answer that?
They can get dragged out.
Yes.
Does that make sense, what I said?
Yes, it makes sense. And yes, the judge can absolutely say that. Bankruptcy judges have a significant amount of authority. This is a bankruptcy case. They can't file a motion for a new venue. They are stuck right where they're at. So they're going to have to come up with some creative argument on why they don't have to turn this information over. And make no mistake, they will come up with that argument.
That's true.
But
JR, could they also settle though?
Not yet.
Not at this point. They're not going to settle without making an argument. That's counterintuitive. But
I think they can drag it out.
At some point there can be some level of settlement. But I think going back to and I apologize, I don't know who was speaking. Going back to that individual's question, can they push this out indefinitely? The answer is no. Can they push this out? The answer is yes. But at some point, and if you go back and look at the Sorrento Therapeutics case, the judge got pissed off and issued a contempt order. And then all of a sudden, here comes all the information that was requested. Well, not requested, was ordered by the judge. So, no, it's not indefinite. Can they push it out? Yes. But at some point, the judge is going to put the hammer down and say, here's the date. It's due. If you don't have the information by this time, we're going to issue contempt orders. And if you continue to defy the court order, we're going to hammer you with fines and penalties.
Thank you. I just want to, one last thing, I just want to tell everybody, thank you so much on behalf of the community. We love you guys. And Syntax, appreciate your comment there. We're all very emotional. Thank you. Have a good day.
Go ahead, Steph.
Hey, can I add something? I'm not sure why it's not working, but George actually asked Anna if she would speak because Trade Station was noted in here. I tried to put her up as speaker a couple of times. For some reason, it's not working. I just wanted to note that. I'm going to try it again.
She was up here.
Yeah, I saw her.
Busy. I'm bouncing in and out because of work, just so you know.
It's okay. I sent a message to Richard also, by the way.
You know what I'm really interested to find out too? I mean, the subpoenas, this is just kind of, harvesting. Oh, okay. I see Anna's back. Let me just make the statement real quick though. But I think it's going to be really interesting who's implicated in this and who's had communication with what entities. We've got the OTC that's been on our radar and FINRA and the SEC. But going back to that June 21st memo, I'm going to be really interested to see if there's any information that's going to kind of show that the OCC tipped off the short sellers at the time of the merger for Torchlight and MetaMaterials that they would not have to close their positions. And that's kind of the catalyst that set the stage for what we would then find with MMTLP. So it's going to be really interesting if we can get to the origin and then just show what they had to do to keep the corruption and the fraud going.
Yeah, and that's why I asked the questions in text. By subpoenaing and ordering for a deposition in order to appear to have a conversation, is the DTC, of course, is the parent company of NSCC, I believe also OCC. Are they OCC as well? But I'm wondering if that subpoena covers that information as well. I'm not sure. Let me actually check on the OCC guy, but Syntax is 100% correct. When they stated, when they made the decision in that memo to hold those option contracts open, that was a dog whistle to the market participants. And by the way, that memo was issued to market participants. I don't know for certain that was made to the general public. So it was
not per my understanding.
Yeah, and certainly not in time, right? And so that was a dog whistle to the market participants. Look, we are keeping these options contracts open. We are going to find a market, because why would you keep those options contracts open if there wasn't going to be trading? You wouldn't. That shows intent, and quite frankly, intent to defraud. And so you are 100% correct on that, guys. Hey, guys, I know you're blowing up my DMs. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to keep up. Just join the space, grab a mic, ask your questions. But I can't answer all these DMs right now, guys. Oh,
Anna, my love.
Hang on.
Sorry, I haven't seen Anna here in forever.
George Palicaris just posting, guys, 12:07 West Coast time, 3:07 market time. Who will settle first? Idea. First to settle gets the cheaper deal. My money is on TradeStation. You, important. Time range from September 21, 2020 pre-merger through August. I'm sorry, I'm speaking so fast, guys. My adrenaline's pumping. Through August 7th, 2020 for post-merger, post-MBA spin-out, all the way to Chapter 7, all under all related QSIPs. So remember, guys, George told us 3 QSIPs, hashtag 3 QSIPs. This is not just about Meta, and this is not just about Torch.
Let's go with Steph.
What about Anna?
Actually busy. I'm happy to skip if Anna wants to go. I know you said that she was up here. My question is for JR, so I can wait.
Right, Anna?
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to take a mic and truly thanks for having the space busy. Thanks for giving me a mic, Kim. And I want to thank George because, you know, through all of this, George, you know, he gave the declaration for my case against TradeStation, and you know, it was an uphill battle with TradeStation to beat arbitration, as it is for any just single investor. So to have George, you know, or the trustee, the bankruptcy trustee, the courts, or the attorneys on this to take this on and to include all of the tickers, because, you know, they're all kind of tied together because they have the same CIK number. But, you know, with TradeStation, I was sent to arbitration, even though, you know, we tried to turn it to a class action. They said, no, you need to go to arbitration. So I think that it was a strong case because they cannot deliver the shares. I do think that George is right. They'll probably be the first one to settle. And if you think about it, like Nikki Binkerkopf, she was, you know, that was in my original complaint, that she was head of the Southeast region for compliance. And then she was promoted to the OTC UTP committee after the halt. And then she's at, you know, the FIF meetings, and she was with TradeStation prior, and now she's working with FINRA. So there's all these people here. You got Patty Casamates. There's a lot that we're going to get through discovery. So I don't think that they're probably going to want discovery. I think they have to be terrified right now because the truth always prevails. And, you know, when you start to go down these rabbit holes and you see how it's all connected and how truly it's just money laundering through their OTC markets and the market centers, which FINRA owns 5 of them. And even, you know, there's so much evidence there that they have to think, okay, we're going to settle now, because they don't want this coming out. You know, you have the OCC memos where they're saying, well, if the market were to develop on the OTC BB, which at that point it was supposed to be, you know, closed down. And yet I found proof that it's still trading, and they listed as pink sheets now. And yet FINRA's put out statements that market has been closed since 2021. And they have also saying the XADF hasn't been in operation since 2015. And you got, you know, MMAT going through there. You had just recently we've seen DJT going through it. So FINRA's operating markets that they say are no longer in use, and yet we have evidence that they are in use, and they're using them daily to run dark pools. So I would think FINRA is shaking in their boots right now as well. And I'm just excited. This is a big day. It's a huge win for all of us. And I'm truly grateful for George. I'm grateful for so many people in this community as well. And just thanks, everyone. I think we're finally, like, you know, it's like the stock market. There's peaks and valleys, and we've been in a valley for 2 years. And I feel like we're finally starting to make it up that peak. And, you know, we're getting out of the valley now. So thanks, guys. Thanks for the mic.
Sweetheart.
Thanks, Anna.
Love you, Anna.
Hey, Busy, let me go ahead and review since we've got the full list now. Okay, guys, for those of you that are joining, how many people we got in here, Busy? 628 people. So what we are here discussing today, and quite frankly, celebrating today, is that in the metamaterials bankruptcy, the trustee has issued 9 notices of issuance of subpoena to produce documents and to appear for depositions. They are, guys, and let me go back to my list really quick. I had to make a list because I can't remember anything right now. Citadel Security, Ansem Funds, NASDAQ, DTCC, FINRA, Schwab, TD Ameritrade, TradeStation, and Virtu. So, guys, let me do that list again. I'm actually doing an update to my post, so I'll get it up there. Citadel Securities, Ansem Funds, NASDAQ, DTCC, FINRA, Schwab, TD Ameritrade, TradeStation, and Virtu. Now, guys, I do not believe for a second that this is the extent of what the list ultimately is going to be. I think this is just a first pass. I think that as these people, the judge orders them to deliver, which they probably will put up a fuss, but ultimately, I don't think it's going to be prolonged because they know the power that bankruptcy judges have. JR keeps pointing us back to the Sorrento case. Silex, Sorrento's the parent company. Look at the shenanigans that were tried in that, and ultimately it didn't work. And so I do believe that this list will be extended as trading data and communications unfold. Could we potentially see the SEC? Could we potentially see GTS and Canaccord? Could we potentially see my favorite, Fidelity? I know people are DMing me and going, where's Fidelity on the list, guys? This is just the beginning. So I will admit I'm a little disappointed not to see it because of the tax implications and the leverage that can apply. But, you know, Wes and the team are aware of the strategy, and that may be something that can be down the road. So by no means, I think this is just the first wave, guys. And so we shall see how this unfolds. What are the items that we are potentially going to be have access to? Trading data, communications, relationships, things like that, you know, bank accounts. Are communications with these organizations, especially Virtu, going to reveal their use of social media influencers? And will those be exposed? Accounts deleted in 3, 2, 1. Anyway, guys, you know, so much can be exposed here. As far as the settlement, you know, I don't know what's going to happen there. I certainly don't know what's going to happen. And this is not a reason for us to stop our efforts. This is a reason to increase those efforts tenfold. Get them on the ropes, keep them on the ropes until we knock them out and take them down.
Bravo.
Let me just
go ahead, Jim.
Let me just add to that because I'm kind of thinking things through. I don't know if settlement is such a good option for them because there are so many eyes on this. I mean, just think about all the congressional people we have talked to over the last 2 years, all the education that we have done over the last 2 years.
If you think of that movie,
DJT going through the exact same issue that MMTLP went through, and that all the other air quote meme stocks that have gone through this issue. There's just too many eyes on it. So I suspect that they are going to fight like a rabid dog backed into a corner. I would be hard pressed to think any of them come forward and settle because we collectively will demand justice. I get that everybody wants this to end, but these organizations need to be held accountable, and, you know, quickly coming to the table and settling without any accountability is a problem for me.
I understand that, but JR, think about this for a second too. I mean, these people or these entities, we shall say, I'm not too certain that it wouldn't create like a dog-eat-dog situation, right? With their desperation where they know the truth is going to come out and where they might want to start singing so that they can throw someone else under the bus. Yeah, I did this, but let me settle. And then really look at GTS or Canaccord. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I just think that
I can't
all the work
talk.
this community has put in with lobbying and getting Congress involved is now going to start to pay some real dividends in terms of accountability.
Well, let's see who too had involvement with James Angel too, and like how he fits into this. This is going to be very interesting.
I gotta move on to Hans. Let's go with. I know it's time has been waiting, but let's go to
it's time when.
It's time first, and then hey, bro.
I just think it's important that for our emotional sake that we realize that this is probably the highest we've ever been on, and it's going to pass, and it's all good news, and it's going to be good from here on out. But tomorrow or Sunday when we're thinking about this and we're on a low, it's just because the high's passed. So I think we need to take that in stride, and we need to make sure and let the process play out, because it's going to be a process that's going to play out.
But
I believe we're all in a good situation.
I think there might be some settlement of the smaller
this
firms.
Emotional and physical stress has been very damaging to my health. The majority of the pain seems to be coming from those that are deleting their post at this time. And all I got to say is it's time for resolution. Thank you for your time.
Whatever that means. Justice isn't going
to... Go ahead, hey, bro.
Payout will happen.
Hey, bro.
But the lawyers will settle before.
Go ahead and say
justice.
Yeah, I just got a stupid question, but they got what, 6 names listed already, and it could be 9 or more. And they're all highest level throughout the markets. Is this like a precedent-setting issue? You know what I mean? Like, you know, with Sorrento, I couldn't imagine they had too many people named as defendants or NWBO, but, you know, is this like going to be there's so many people involved at the highest levels that this could be very interesting.
I don't know. Don't know about that.
The difference between Sorrento and this is Sorrento had 9 broker dealers. They didn't have any SROs listed to my recollection. This is a little different because they're naming DTCC, they're naming NASDAQ, and they're naming FINRA. So I would expect, well, I'm going to keep that to myself. I would expect a different argument from those organizations that I would from the other privately held companies that are named. As far as it is his precedent setting, yeah, this is only the second time or the third time if you count NWBO, but NWBO is making a spoofing claim. So this is a little different than what Sorrento did as well as what Meta is doing, but they're similar. But the answer to your question is you know, they're doing this because they've seen success with it. So yes, it is precedent setting. And go back to what I said earlier, bankruptcy judges have a significant amount of authority.
Exactly.
So you are seeing this kind of unique legal strategy inside of the bankruptcy court that was successful on 2 different occasions. So, and again, the judge just didn't say, yeah, Mr. Palikaris, I believe you. I'm going to sign these 9 orders subpoenaing information and hauling these 9 organizations into court. They presented information to him. And the judge said, yes, I agree. I think there's something here. We're going to issue these orders.
Yeah, and I get that. But it's like I expect UPC, you know, just the DD, what the DD have found. You know, what you're doing is you are showing a cabal at all levels from the beginning of the buy to the halt, you know, and everybody in between's implicated.
So To answer your question,
Go
Justin,
ahead, Caleb.
your broker did not ask for delivery, so your broker is complicit in a
Caleb,
way.
can you guys hear me? We're good still, Savvy?
I can hear you.
Yeah. How long after in the Sorrento case how long did it take everything to play out, roughly? And then I thought I remember somebody talking about it
Is
like a
this
few months ago.
useful still to keep going?
They even after the order and whatnot, they still didn't want to pay out, or maybe that was Dole Foods. I don't remember. It was one of the two.
So the settlement in Sorrento was confidential. We don't know what they ultimately settled at. Okay, but we do know they settled. We don't know who settled. We know some of them settled. And we know some of them didn't. So that might still be going on. We don't know. But from the time the judge issued the order until they got the information was, I want to say, almost 3 months, because the judge issued the order in May and the information had to be delivered, I think, by the first week. Or no, the judge issued the order in April. The information had to be delivered by, I think, the first or second week in May. It hadn't been delivered. At the end of May, he filed an order putting all of the organizations that didn't respond in contempt. And then the information came in, and then the judge published an opinion sometime in late July with the information. Now, in between that time, some of the organizations had approached Sorrento to settle, and they worked out a deal that was private. We don't know the context of the deal. We just know that they worked out a deal because it was in one of the motions, and the judge agreed, and they were able to move forward with whatever deal they cut. But I think this is a little different than Sorrento Therapeutics, and it's different because of all of us and the pressure that we had applied. So I put no weight in the amount of time Sorrento took and correlating it to what this may take. This is a unique situation, and it's a unique situation because of the 678 people on here, because of the hundreds and hundreds of calls and meetings and visits and all of that stuff with congressional involvement. This is a real problem for them right now. And I don't like the term they're shitting their pants or they're scared right now, but this is a concern. Someone's going to be having a meeting at some point over the next day or two with their attorney. Well, let me rephrase that. 9 organizations are going to be sitting down over the next 2 to 3 days with counsel, either internal or outside counsel, strategizing on what their move is going to be. And make no mistake, there's going to be quite a few people in that meeting, and they're going to talk about all the different risks that are involved with what happens if this happens? What happens if that happens? What if we do this? What do we do? What if we do that? I was just in a meeting this morning that lasted 2 hours longer than what it should have, and we overanalyzed something that was completely irrelevant. I wanted to cut my head off and hang myself. These meetings that they're going to have are not going to be like that. They're going to be tense. They're going to look at every different little angle, and they're going to plan and plot and strategize on what their next move is. I don't know if that's shitting their pants, but make no mistake, there's going to be a lot of thought, and there's going to be a lot of attorneys over the next 4 or 5 days making a shitload of money on billable hours.
The number one thing they're going to try to do is to not have any of this disclosed.
Along those same lines too, because they're we actually named FINRA, SEC, and NASDAQ in ours too. So it might even take longer. I was just trying to get a feel for it. But yeah, I figure it's going to take even longer just because of the amount of people that are involved in it. And the other thing too is hopefully, I don't see Greg frickin' accepting some shitty offer frickin' from Citadel, Trade Station, whatever. And if he does, it better be high.
Well, and let me say this, Caleb, guys, excuse busy for a few minutes. I'll take over here for a minute. I don't think that's going to be the case either. Plus, they want discovery. And guys, what we're talking about, JR just indicated there were 9 broker dealers in Sorrento, 105 minimum, guys. That's just those brokers with DTC allotments. What about those that are holding 100% uncertificated positions? There are those. And so I can't imagine that Greg McCabe is going to fall over with his legs up in the air at the first offer that comes his way. He wants discovery as well. And this may be the best path for him to get it for his investors. I also want to respond to what Captain said. Sorry, guys, I had to drop and come back, having connectivity issues. But Captain, you talked about, the conspiracy and how they all work together. I keep talking about this. President Trump's executive order on cartels, declaring them as terrorist organizations. He was not just talking about human trafficking. He was not just talking about the drugs, which, by the way, guys, if you listen to that Jaco Booleans interview, they're not protecting with the Epstein list politicians and Hollywood celebrities. They're protecting the market criminals. They're protecting the market cartel because they are the ones that are involved in the trafficking and the drugs as well. And so when you look at that executive order, what we have here is a market cartel, and they are financial terrorists. And I believe that executive order may have some play here.
She's correct. And that's what Ham calls them too, isn't he? Financial terrorists.
Oh, sorry. I forgot I was in control. Danny, go ahead, and then we'll go back to Captain Insane.
Yeah, so first, I don't want to be premature about this, but I'm going to say my thank yous to KCAP. You'll know why at some point in the future, maybe. But I just want to say thank you. I'm proud of you.
This is 100.
I also want to say, when that Virtue and Citadel filing came out, and especially number 2 on that list, all messages relating to the routing of orders of any type of shares, Meta and or MMTLP, using FIX or binary protocol or any other protocol used for similar purposes in the original format of the data was saved, routed to an exchange or off exchange, trading venue on behalf of a client broker dealer of Citadel, and received from an exchange or off exchange trading venue on behalf of client broker dealer of Citadel.
Okay, 100. Enjoy your moment. Vindication is here.
Vindicated. I'll say it again. Vindicated.
Right.
I told you.
He did, guys, and he deserves that. He's been telling us that for 2 years. So.
And then finally, I just want to thank all and everybody that was involved with the research process. This was a lot of hard work. It was a combination of a tremendous amount of brain power throughout the entire community, not just myself. I joke around, but at the same time, this is decades of heartfelt, time, energy, emotion built into this beautiful event of a process that we're.
Hey, Danny, go ahead. Unmute yourself. Sorry about that, guys.
Beautiful ocean.
It's just a beautiful event that we're all going to enjoy going forward. And lastly, I wanted to address what JR brought up before and his concerns for accountability. I think the accountability will come, as we will see, in the coming time. But I also see that from the financial system perspective, there's a process there that will force that accountability. And it is already activated. It is now just pending authorization from the U.S. Treasury and the President of the United States of America. Let's go.
Thanks, Danny. Good moment for you as well. There's so many people, guys, that have worked so hard in this community. And 100 is definitely one of those. So thank you for that. Insane. You're back on the mic.
I'm back on this collaboration crap, but at this point, I'm going to assume they may have collaborated together to do what they did to us, but I would assume that 9 parties named are going to have 9 separate lawyers, and they are going to want to distance themselves from each other just as damn far as they can.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it's basically they're still colluding.
Yeah, they definitely will all have their own representation. I can imagine if, some of the cases that we've seen are an indication they're going to have multiple lawyers. But guys, they knew this was coming.
Right,
they knew this was coming. We knew 6-8 months ago that this was coming. And so I don't know what potential preparations they've made, if any, or if their arrogance and hubris has made them think they could beat this. And let's also mitigate expectations, guys. We don't know how this is going to unfold. Yes, Wes Christian had success in the Silex Sorrento case. Yes, he's appearing to have some success in the Northwest Bio case. But as excited as we are as the can of worms that this can open for us, we also need to keep our eyes and our ears open, continue to do the work so that as there's legal pressure, there is congressional administrative pressure as well. And so now is not the time to lay up and sit back on what Matt calls our laurels, right? We need to continue to push and add to this pressure so that we can get up over the hump and get our resolution, whatever that resolution may be, guys. Busy, are you back? Let's go to It's Time, Phineas, and then back to Syntax.
It's just my belief that as this unfolds, there'll be others, names and other entities brought into this. So don't think that these 9 is it. I believe right now there's people having discussions, and they've been having discussions for a little bit. So I think there's a lot more pieces coming to the table. So I think the best thing we can do as a community is push harder now than ever before, so that every congressman and senator has our name on their desk and they can't avoid it.
To your point, it's time. I'd love to see OTC markets on that list coming up.
Oh, shoot. We lost him. It's Time. Are you still there?
OTC markets is one that should be in the top 3.
Yep.
Well, let me say this. When it comes to motions like this, subpoenas and motions for depositions, there is a strategy. You don't want to blow your whole wad at once because, the number of people that have to go through that information, sort through it, you want to do it in phases. So that you don't bury yourselves. I'm not sure how big Wes's office is or the other attorney that's listed, who I do believe is the transaction avoidance attorney legal firm. But you want to do these things in waves. Maybe JR can confirm or deny this. But my understanding is you do it in a wave, you sort through the material, you find out what information you have, who implicates, and then you go on to the next round. JR, did you want to opine on that for a minute? Am I correct or am I incorrect?
Yeah, I mean, it could be a variety of things. It could be that, whatever information they presented to the judge, these are the firms that they had that information on. All of this can lead to additional information and additional firms can be named, or maybe they had 15 firms and these 9 firms were the ones with the strongest amount of information, and the judge just couldn't say, look, I'm going to name all 15. These 9 I agree with. These other, 5 or 6 that are out there I'm unsure of. So we'll see where these first 9 lead to. There's a variety of things that could have happened that obviously we're not privy to. But I think ultimately it's going to lead to additional institutions being named. I would be surprised if it's just limited to these 9. I mean, we have all speculated that it was all 105 FINRA broker dealers, that were part of the, for lack of a better term, cabal. So I think this is round 1, and it's not even a shot across the bow. It's a fucking missile that was fired, dead center. So yeah, I mean, it's gonna lead to more information for sure.
Yeah, and we've had Wes talk about, and we've talked about in this community that early trading data indicates, there's a reason that we've talked about GTS and Canaccord from the beginning, and so they are not on this list. But I think it's a clear indication. And I will tell you from the trading information that we have, from the verified information that we have through the efforts of this community and our share count, that there are other brokers with massive exposure. But for whatever reason, the strategy was to go for this 9. I agree. I think OTC markets, its time should be included. So that we understand who applied and under what exemption and who's paid the bill to have this start trading. And then OCC, of course, should be there for the reasons that Syntax and I have also said many times. So there are plenty of other targets, high value targets, but for whatever reason, they've decided to go for these 9 and grab the popcorn, folks. Should be interesting in the next few months. Phineas and then Syntax. I'm not sure about that order made sense.
I just had a thought here. I was just thinking out loud. Should we be kind of grateful that the board of directors for Meta took Meta down to a bankruptcy case? Because if without that, we wouldn't be getting these fiery missiles shot at them, correct?
I'm certainly not going to lob any of my gratitude in that direction. I certainly believe that there was other paths that it could have been pursued and sustained the company. I think per my conversations with the trustee and her attorney, that they are asking the right questions. I think that there was other opportunities. So I'm not going to throw any love in the situation that they obviously orchestrated, but we're going to hopefully we're going to take advantage of it.
I can answer that question, and it's a resounding yes. And I will tell you that Richard and I have had private conversations about this strategy since we read over the Sorrento Therapeutics case. Now, with that said, there was a tremendous amount of risk here. I'm not suggesting that Meta did it on purpose. I don't know. I'm not a Meta Materials owner. I've only spoken to George via DMs, and it was things that were unrelated to this. But it is clearly a strategy. And it's a strategy because of what you saw in Sorrento Therapeutics, what you saw in NWBO, and what you're seeing right now. It's a strategy that paid off. And I think, 2-3 years down the road, if this plays out the way we all hope it plays out, these market makers and hedge funds that are naked shorting these companies into bankruptcy and profiting, they're going to start to think twice about it, because if a company goes into bankruptcy and they have evidence of this kind of stuff going on, it's a problem for them. It's no longer we short them into bankruptcy and then they go out of business and their shares go away and we profit without paying taxes. It's now a risk for them to do that. So I get that might not be a popular opinion, but that's what happened here. Meta went into bankruptcy and they took a shot and they won. Well, I shouldn't say they won. I apologize. They got the judge to buy into their argument, and now they're moving forward.
So, Jay,
can I clarify? I didn't want everybody to think I'm just saying that it's a blessing in disguise. I didn't want Meta to file bankruptcy.
No, I totally know where you're coming from.
And JR, I think that Meta was a thriving company, and I think that they would have done amazing things. I think one of the biggest things that happened was when they offered George a severance package that was tied to an extreme gag order, and he refused the severance. So he refused the money so that he could speak. And if he hadn't have done that, we wouldn't be here.
Can I agree with you 100%, Kim. And JR, I love you, my friend. And I'm glad that we can have civil discourse, which you and I do on Spaces and Off Spaces. But here's where I'm going to disagree with you. Number one, first of all, they're not. What's happening now is not going on behalf of the Meta board. This is for behalf of the creditors and the shareholders, being those. But if they truly had good intentions or a viable strategy in doing this, then why, number one, did they quit paying their bills? Why did they force a reverse split, 100-to-1 reverse split on the shareholders? Why did they pay themselves hundreds or millions of dollars in bonuses? Why did they quit paying their bills and utilities entities to establish a debt to put them into bankruptcy? And why did they unload the most valuable assets for pennies on the dollar? And then they jumped ship and quit.
They're
So
part
I'm
of
not
it.
going to
I'm not
disagree.
suggesting-
I think what's going on now
They
is
should
an
worry
ancillary
themselves.
benefit, and that we took advantage of, as shareholders. George, absolutely, Kim's 100% correct. We would not be here if George was not able to contribute to not just this case, but to Anna's case and any other case that is coming forward. I think that we made the best of a situation, but I give the board no credit for this.
She's
Well,
great. She is
again,
great. She's
I
great.
understood the question to mean, is this a strategy that companies can use? And I think the answer is a resounding yes. Sorrento is the perfect example because the dividend was a huge asset for that organization.
I'm going to ask you guys, first 3 answers. Do you want to listen to more or listen to me ramble? I'm fine. If you want to listen to more, I'll sit here, but it's going to devolve into a lot of opinions, and I don't think we'll learn very much more.
Meta had products. I read over some of the cases. I was reading about their products leading up to buying MMTLP. I just opted for MMTLP because I thought I could make a quick buck. But there's no doubt in my mind that Meta was a viable company, but they got naked shorted to death. They couldn't go out into the market and raise capital. Isn't that why we issue securities and have markets to trade so that organizations can go out and sell their shares and raise money and grow and everybody profits, their investments grow and all that other fun stuff? But at the end of the day, what's happening is these hedge funds are squeezing these companies. They're cutting off any kind of liquidity to the markets. And so now they're in bankruptcy. And the real reason they're in bankruptcy is because they couldn't go out into the market and buy shares. So this has now become a viable argument for them in bankruptcy. And the fact that you have now a second federal bankruptcy judge going, there was shit going on here, and I'm going to issue these subpoenas. The light bulb should be going off right now. That's why I'm saying over the next 3 to 4 days, there's going to be a lot of stewing in conference rooms with outside counsel and these 9 organizations trying to figure out how the hell they get out of this mess.
No, and
they created.
I can agree with that to a point, JR, but specific to Meta, first of all, I think taking the Hail Mary of going into bankruptcy court and hoping it works out for you instead of you being liquidated is a hell of a risk to take. But when it comes to Meta in particular, and I do agree with you that I think shorts are going to think differently. We also have to think about, Ansem Funds is trapped in other things, the Kramers, all this stuff, TTII, Finger, all this kind of stuff, right? NWBO. It's all the same people, guys. It's all the same people. But I will say this with Meta in particular. They had money. They could have put their business development on hold and funded this lawsuit. Or they could have gone with the outside.
All right. And Grant is saying call him. All right, I'll call him. But very quickly, if this is a jury trial, which I'm not sure it is or not, or a jury, sounds like it's not. Sounds like it's a judge. That works, is the fact that it's a judge works in favor of the bad guys, lawyers. Juries are unpredictable. You've seen the movies. The other thing is, if you remember the movie with John Travolta, I can't remember the name of it. I read the book before the movie. It was black with hell. Anyway, it was about the leather up in Massachusetts or Maine, and the community had cancer, and he was a lawyer. He didn't care, cocksure, and he ended up betting his whole career, his money, his firm to defend this. And at the end, it was sort of a They won, but it wasn't as big as it could have been. And W.R. Grace, who was represented in the movie by the bald actor Tom Hagen, that actor that plays Tom Hagen, who's a great actor, he came up to John Revolta and to settle, and he put it down. It was a good offer, and now I can't remember how the movie played out. I think they rejected it at first, and then at the end of the day, there was a separate settlement, and W.R. Grace got out during the court, I think, essentially scot-free. And it was a different issue that the other firm paid out on. My point is, and what is that actor's name? There's Tom, anyway. My point is that to me, it's highly unlikely that 105 brokerage firms, and Junk Savvy just brought up, there's a bunch of firms like Justin's who processed the trade and never requested delivery, and they don't have any certificates. They just acted truly as a broker. So there could be more than 105. I think there's going to be a scramble of a lot of brokerage firms to settle with their clients. And if you're one of those clients, you have to decide, do I sign the release? Because that's what'll be required. You know, what's amazing to me, this is such a big process. Everybody's worked hard. They deserve all the credit. But way back when, and I'm not trying to credit myself, it's just, I drew it all up several times. I said, this is the way it's going to go. And sure enough, it has. But the good news is, as one of these people said, the bankruptcy judge, when you go into bankruptcy, it's a warping of everything, because the judge can almost do whatever she wants, almost. And it's great. It's great for us. It's great for us. Anyway, I'll try. Robert Duvall, thank you. Thank you. What a brain I have. All right, let me see if I can get Ham on the phone. A civil action. You guys are great. You guys are great. Hello.
Yes.
You called, and Grant Stevens is telling me to call you.
Who's Grant Stevens?
He's on my live. I don't know. I thought he spoke with you.
Okay, what does he need?
I don't know. If you want to go live, I thought you were talking to him.
Okay, I got a few minutes. Go ahead.
Just talk. What happened today is MMTLP in a court, the bankruptcy court, approved going after data, subpoenas, records, everything. So for 9 companies. And I'll tell you the companies, Citadel, NASDAQ, FINRA, DTC, Schwab, VIRT, TD Ameritrade, TradeStation, and another one I can't read my writing.
Right. Listen, the game's over. Listen, the game is over. You know, it's just a matter of what day now. You get Discovery. Discovery is the end of the game. There's nothing else I could say. I know everybody's sitting there, well, the stocks don't act like it. They're trying to cover. That's what they're trying to do. And all these other names are trying to cover. And the names you're talking about, they're trapped. Did people think it was going to go on and never end? You know, it's over.
Oh, it's the Anson funds. Anson funds.
Yeah, they're all tied to it. Yeah. Listen, I got it. You guys have been in this thing for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. I'm doing it 25 years. We couldn't get Discovery. They always block you. Now you're getting it. The game is over.
Well, that's
Listen,
an interesting.
the more they beat up Trump, the more they beat up everybody else, the better it is for you.
That's an interesting thought. If they come to settlement, they could withdraw before discovery. Sorry, but there's 105 brokerage firms. It's probably over those.
Listen, no one wants discovery. This is survival of the fittest. They're all going to point the finger. It's not me, it's them. It's not me, it's them. That's what they're going to say. They all say the same thing. Before you called me, I was on the phone with my friend. He was buying 5,000 GBUX, and they were selling it in shares at 23 shares, like a machine gun, trying to knock it down. That's all they're trying to do, and they do it always at 3.
The one thing, and it may be a distinction with no difference, the one thing is, I don't think it's a human being. I think it's a computer doing that 23.
On GBUX, it's a human being. It's them.
So someone's sitting there and just hitting the button over and over again on 23
That's all they're
shares.
doing. That's it. That's what they're doing. They could set up their computers to do that. They could say, sell 25 shares, just sell like a machine gun. That they could do. This is not program trading. This is GBUX is the lowest form of the thieves here. This is the lowest form. You call them up and they do it, and they try to hide your name. That's what they're for. We call ASCM as a beard. That's what they use. Then they use other companies to move the orders around. You can click on everyone can click on their own desktop.
So describe this guy doing it. Is he fit and in shape, or is he overweight? You
see the picture of him? He's a skinny little guy. He's probably worked at an over-the-counter firm.
Yeah.
And they all shut down, and someone got him a job working at this place, and he's just stealing. That's all they're doing.
So he's sitting there with a. Does he smoke or drink, or is he just sitting there with a Twinkie and he's hitting the 23, 23, 23, or 26?
Listen, these guys are criminals. I always made fun of the over-the-counter traders because they were trading against people's order flow.
That's all. They've got half of the trade locked in. How much risk are they taking?
That's exactly right. They always trade against order flow. They do not know how to trade.
Right.
They do not know how to trade. That's just the way it is. These guys are criminals, and that's just the way it is. How they don't buy back a share, the longer they stay, the more jail time I believe they should all have. Finger Motion, Lynn Partners, and their offshore buddy, Hancock in Australia. These guys belong in jail for life. They're sitting here. They could care less. They wiped out that company, K&W. Now they're on to GMGI. They don't care. They just don't care. Until someone stops them, they're going to keep going. That's what they do. I wish I could say something more for it. What else do you want to say?
Not much. You don't have to talk about MMTLP. You can, or NextBridge. You can talk about G-Bucks and Finger.
Listen, I'm with you. I know John Berta. I'm with everybody. I have friends that are in it. This is what we expected to happen. It's not going to go on forever. It's not going to go on forever. But just understand that. And this is the end. This is the finale.
This is the end.
And everyone's looking, I want to make money. I want to do this. Well, those people have to get out because they're all locked in. Once they get at the get out of jail card, whatever it may be for them, I don't know what it's going to be. You're going to see rockets all over the place. There's going to be stocks screaming everywhere. That's just the way it's going to end. There's nothing to say. That's just the way it ends. That's just the way it ends.
All right, so it's 4:00. You can stay and go on, or whatever.
Yeah, I was gonna go play pickleball, but
play pickleball. You don't have
I got a few minutes, so I had to do a bunch of stuff. But again, you know the stories.
There's
the
a
stories,
question here. A bunch of people. Are you in China? Obviously not. So anyway.
No, I'm not there yet. I'm not going. I can't tell. I'm not telling anybody where I'm going.
Yeah.
I'm doing my homework, which most people don't do. So, I'm not here to tout you. I'm not here. I'm just telling you facts when I dig them up. I'm fully invested. My family, friends, everyone I know. My friend said he went to buy the stock on the close. They sold me small blocks that were closed at 50. That's the GBUX. My friend was buying stock and they won't let it go up. They sell 50 shares at a time. They're just, it's completely obvious what they're trying to do. They're trying to get people to sell and no one's selling. I know 4 or 5 people that buy every day. They just keep adding. But this is the sign of a rat trapped. And I told you before, they're going the wrong way. They need the stocks to go up. People will sell when the stocks go up. Not when they're pushing it down. People are buying. Same thing with Finger, I don't speak to DJT.
Are you aware of another case where Discovery has gotten this close? The reason I'm asking is maybe
there's been cases they settle.
I know they settle. But this is it's got so many people involved and it's so noisy. My question as it relates to G-Bucks, what are there firms there that are short and they're going, get the hell out of all our short positions because of this, the risk of having to disclose what we did in the MMTLP shorting?
I think that there's a lot of people that are tiptoeing out of positions. I do. I can't tell you what stocks they are. I'm sure maybe it's in Peloton, maybe it's in Beyond Meat, maybe it's in the pot company TLRY or Wolf. All right, I really do believe people have been tiptoeing out. Stocks that they can't get out of, Finger Motion, they can't get out. They can't get out of GBUX. MULN, the company has plugged all the shorts. CELU, the company's plugged the shorts. KNW, they plugged the shorts. So there's different stocks. But the ones that I know of that have fought back and have not let these guys into their camp, those are the ones that they're dead in. They don't know what to do. Finger Motion is traded at 140 today and slowly all day long because when the market falls apart, people have a tendency not to participate. And I think that's wrong. I think you're stupid if you do not. I'm not saying, I don't know what stocks you're buying, but I'm a buyer. If I believe in a name, I'm a buyer. The market going down, the better for me. All right. I'm not a buyer. If a stock like Finger Motion, let's say, opened to 140, ran to 170, I'm not a chaser. But if it pulls back to 140, I'm in. That's the way I play. That's the way to play. And you got your opportunity today. People didn't want to do anything. That's your business. I could care less. No one ever, when the stocks do go, whatever it may be, you're going to sit there, I knew about it. Why didn't I do anything? Why didn't I do this? I did the same thing. How many times I got told to buy a stock and I didn't do it and went straight up? I'm like, and I picked this other one that didn't do anything. We all say the same thing. But I do my homework. I get off my ass and I go do my homework. You know what? If you want to be lazy about it and don't understand it and ask stupid questions, we can only answer them. All right? We're not trying to be insulting, but everything's out here. The CEO, people went to the meetings in Finger Motion. It's all there. The only reason the stock is lower is because of the naked short selling. Did the company want to raise money at $1.50? No, they would have loved to raise it at 20. But Lynn Partners pushed it down from 10 down to where it is because they can't get out. They can't cover and they can't get out. I told you before when they use Capybara. Capybara is obviously tied to the Anson Fund, to Andrew Left, Hindenburg. They're all the same people. Even Chanos, they all wrote these negative stories. How the government, it'll take you 5 minutes. If anyone wanted to, they can arrest these people in 5 minutes. Go to Andrew Left and tell us if you don't give up the people in 10 minutes, you're going to jail for 25 years. But I didn't do it. Who'd you do it for? He'll tell everybody. Then you go to Hindenburg. All these people. That's it. The Kramers will give up everybody. Alpine. They're all criminals. This system, if you think D.C. is full of rats, this Wall Street's worse. And they always try to make you the bad guy because we're exposing them. Someone put up a story today, William. I put one up for you. One was about gold, the transfer of gold into the U.S. I put it on Twitter. I said, William, watch this. And the transfer of gold, I think, is taking away or adding to the GDP. It has something to do. It has something to do with affecting the government statistics in a negative way.
I think it's increasing the trade deficit.
So yeah, something's going on. I forgot the guy explained it. I told you to watch it because the gold thing.
Gold's coming in at one price and the money's going out. I'd have to think it through how it works.
Watch the guy. It's on. The guy does it perfect for you. And I wrote on Twitter, William watched this video, and I said I just sent it to you.
That means I have to go on Twitter, but I'll do.
And you have to go watch the video. It's very good. It was very good. And there was another video where the guy, I forget who it was, he was talking. He did a clip off of Joe Rogan, and he talked about how they always attack the messengers, Wall Street. Someone did a video of the guy that got tossed out the window of Bed Bath & Beyond. They said that guy knew too much information about naked short selling. And they tossed that guy out of the window. I mean, so there's billions at stake here. The money's going offshore. I don't know how the government doesn't stop it. It's remarkable. The money's funneling into Switzerland or Spain or, to somewhere in Central America. All these guys are doing it from offshore, and they're just all criminals. I don't know how they don't stop this. The United States is like got 40 holes in the dam, just in the stock market. Forget the other nonsense, all the other stuff.
Pay off Congress.
It's remarkable. It's but getting Discovery. You think Dole Foods had too many shares? Wait till you see these numbers of these companies.
Yeah.
Again, Northwest Bio, they're going to come to him and offer him, $100 million. What's the CEO going to say? I fought these guys, blah, 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 blah. Give me the money. Right? And then he has to make something. Hopefully gets his approval. And that doesn't help the shareholders that are long the stock. And who knows what he's going to do with the money. And hopefully he can build out his product and get it to market and help people with brain cancer. What's the other one? MMTLP. I don't even know how they fixed that one because everyone is different. They attacked John Berger and the other gentleman, whatever his partner's name was.
George Pelecanos.
Whatever. They tried to get him. Oh, they started a short squeeze. Why? By issuing a dividend that the SEC and DTC approved? That's what caused the short squeeze. And they blame them. Shoot the messenger, right? Never the criminals that sold the stock, right? Yeah. All these illegal shorts, they don't show up anywhere. It's just amazing. Listen, it's coming to an end. I know everybody wants to get closure immediately and go on with their life. I got it. We can't do it. We're trying our best. But what will happen is you're going to see rockets everywhere. Life-changing trades are right here. It's not buying the video looking for a bounce. It's not Tesla looking for a bounce. No one on this phone has enough money to retire from those trades. I showed you finger motion. I gave you the data. We showed you the criminal. And you know the events that are coming up. Once again, companies can't move fast enough. All right, everybody?
All right.
All right, I'll speak to you later, William.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks.
So sorry. What we listened to earlier, I should have said, was Busy Brands and Junk Savvy were holding a space call on X, on Twitter, and quite a few people came on who I've listened to a lot of those calls. And a lot of those people worked every single day, every single night, busy junk, 100. A guy named Curtis, you didn't hear him. This good JR. The JR here is not as good as the JR there. I'm just kidding. The other JR, and then that the person that got emotional. She walked the halls of Congress. I was there in Pete Sessions' office with her. So she worked hard, and anyway, it's a whole lot of people, and that was that call. You can go, it's still going on. You can go to Twitter, and under Busy Brands or under Junk Savvy, you can find that call to listen. But I stopped it because it'll be recorded so you can re-listen to it, but also once it gets beyond the information stage, I don't mind listening to the conversations, but I just don't know how many people here want to hear it. So I turned it off. So on Nix, Nixie's Auralink AI announces up to 120 million AI-enabled reciprocal telecommunications services agreement with a global technology partner. And it was on, Evan Son was on TV. He's got a nice blue sky behind him. And it could be an imminent move, according to at Chris Lacoisier. And it's next PR, he says, makes it hit 52-week highs, which I think's $12, which is good from here. And then he thinks the stock could also do a much higher move. So anyway, that's Nix. Why isn't this working? There we go. Oh, wow. She brought up GTII that the Kramers are stuck. That's awesome. Look, the Kramers didn't short. Jeff Lynne doesn't short. It's their clients that do it. They're always arm's length. But in the case of the Kramers, they're low on the totem pole. They all are. You know, they'll cut bait with them, the big funds. I have a feeling that they're all, you know, I said it before, my conclusion, my pattern I noticed got a lot of blowback that I don't like, because I'm not what came back at me. But I mean, for example, down in Mexico, compared to my age, some kids were going to the beach, and the car, I guess, was pulled over, and a cartel guy killed them all, 9 of them. Well, if those, I didn't read it long enough to know, but if, just as an example, if those people were driving down from Texas, whether they were white or Latino or whatever they were from American citizens driving down to enjoy the beach, and that happens, and it's whoever it is, Mexicans or Venezuelans or El Salvadorians, some cartel attacks them, and it starts happening frequently, the pattern will get noticed, and people will get nervous when they cross the border and drive through Mexico and they see anybody that looks like, a Mexican or a El Salvadorian, or until they can figure out, are we safe? That's human nature. It doesn't mean that all Mexicans are part of the cartel. It doesn't mean that all El Salvadorians are part of a cartel. It's probably a minuscule amount of people that are part of the cartel. Anyway, that was the pattern I noticed regarding something else, and all of a sudden I'm Hitler. I wasn't in any way talking about an entire population. My guess, the people that do this crime here in the States and in Canada, it's probably not more than 1,000 people. And of course, all the others benefit from it. And then there's lawyers who benefit and look the other way, so much money. But it's not very many people. So to notice that those people might work together and they might know each other outside of the confines of the system. Anyway, so the Kramers, I think you're going to find that they may have been part of all of these things, or their clients were, and the Anson funds might have called the Kramers for help out. It's a very small fraternity of men. How will this affect Fenger? Well, it'll affect Fenger or have an effect on Fenger, possibly, but I don't think it'll be immediate. Look, if that movie, The Civil Action, if you've seen it, there was some discovery. And before one of the hearings, Robert Duvall goes up to John Travolta, makes an offer. Why? Because lawyers want to take the risk out of it, even if they think they have a good hand. But the process still took weeks or months. I don't remember in the movie how they describe it. So it's going to take time. But I would expect the smaller firms, this is something I discussed December 15th. I started blabbing about it with a whiteboard. I mean, it's so obvious where it was going to go, but some things just have to follow through. And lawyers always go through the process, partly out of training, partly out of it builds a record, and therefore it protects them. But they also get paid for all that. But now, out of 105 broker dealers, probably more, I think John Savvy's correct, I would imagine 85% of those broker dealers want to just get the hell out of this. They'll my prediction, Drew, it has nothing to do with Fenger, but at first, but there's a potential. I'll pick on a firm that I like. I have a friend that works there. I've never had an account there, but I think that's a great firm. Is a firm called Davenport out of Richmond, Virginia, and they have a lot of offices, but it's a good, clean firm. A company like Davenport might have, by some fluke, they might have 20 clients on their books that own MMTLP, and they get notice. They'll get notice of this, and the subpoena, and the request, and all of that. I know it's only these 12 companies, but they'll get notice because it'll go through the back offices. My opinion, they'll get notice. Whether it's a formal legal notice, I don't know, but they'll get a internal memo on it. So the lawyers for Davenport, in my example, will get to work and they'll call into West Christian if he's the person to call into. This is an example I'm making up. And they'll say, look, what would it take for us to exit, not be part of this case? Well, it's hard not, for you not to be. This is a global problem. It's a massive thing, and blah, 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 blah. Well, all right. So what's the price? It's always a negotiation. Well, if you want to get out, I don't know what Wes would ask for. He might say, don't file any objections. Don't align with anybody on the bad side, and maybe cover a bit of the fee costs here. We'll let you out for 50 grand because it's a small firm. We'll let you out for 100 grand and just to show us that you got a release from all of your clients. I can see where it would be sloppy because some clients might have brokerage accounts at other brokers. But in essence, I'm trying to create a situation where it's a clean, honest, smaller regional firm like Davenport just wants to get the hell out. They'll settle. They'll settle with you. They'll call you up and they'll say, you have 1,500 shares of NextBridge, MMTLP, and you paid $8. And I know it's been difficult. We're willing to buy those shares from you for $8. Some people take it, but some won't. So maybe they have they go up to, I'm making it up, $20, $25. All right, I'll take $25. And then they'll make you sign a release. This is all I put in video after video, to the point where I stopped talking about it. But they will in order to get the payout, you're going to have to sign a release that says you won't join in any other reindeer games and you won't talk. And anyway, that I think will happen very all over the place. I think companies like Fidelity are in trouble, or Anson, or FINRA. That's where they're going to go, where the money is. And that's where you can that's the fraud and the upside for the settlement. So anyway, Drew, where I think it might affect Finger is people here may get cash and they're going to say, where am I going to go? Maybe they give it to Railtown. Maybe they give it to G-Bucks. Maybe they put it in silver. Maybe they put it in Finger. Maybe they pay off their credit card. But I think that's the first effect. It has an interesting potential to snowball because of all of us. And it would be interesting if some of these shops just stop doing this. Let's say in Finger, the 4 hedge funds that reportedly Jeffrey Lynn talk about, he's got 4 hedge funds and they might be shorting. Those hedge funds might pull back from putting any orders into short Finger. That could happen as a result of this. That could happen. The market makers that are facilitating it, not really market makers. That's the problem. Even the JR on this call, obviously extremely well versed and hard working on it. And I don't blame him, but everyone expects somehow that the financial system has systems and processes in place that matter. They don't. The legal system is can call that out. David Hendricks. There's YouTubers that should be punished. Well, I don't know. I don't watch enough. My thing is when I watch a channel on YouTube, if it's I don't know, it's got to interest me to continue watching. And there's a lot of people out there that talked about stocks early on. I just stopped watching them, so I don't know which YouTubers should be punished. In the case of MMTLP, I don't think that there's anything really to punish me for on MMTLP. Maybe being intemperate a few times and losing my cool and that. I would think the one thing that I regret looking back at that time is I really thought short squeezes could happen. And when I talk to friends of mine on Wall Street, they say, well, they do. There are some, and they list some names. So I guess they do. But I wish maybe I always said if it happens, but I wish I had been clear or if I had known. Back then, I did believe that the compliance officer would come buy him in. I don't think they do it anymore. So, but in the case of MMTLP, I didn't tell anybody to buy it. And like an idiot, I personally bought it at $8. So the one advantage is it hasn't been trading. So that's very hard to break securities laws on a stock that's not trading. Anyone hear them? Anyone hear them? I don't know. I don't know if the Kramers were short MMTLP. I don't know. I'm sure Ken Griffin was not short MMTLP. It's just hard to know. But it's all multiple LLCs and so let me go to Louis Shotland. No, you'll be included. You'll be included. The shares at Nextbridge will be included. And remember, now you're talking a settlement. I personally think it's going to get broken up into many different groups. I think the ones that'll be in that movie, A Civil Action, I'm trying to remember the company they actually got money out of. W.R. Grace was bigger, but the company they got money out of was purchased by somebody else, but it was a smaller firm. Can't remember the name, doesn't matter. I think FINRA, its potential here, FINRA, Anson Funds, I forget who else is on the list. There's going to be some companies that can't settle. They have Fidelity. They have such a big problem, they're not going to be able to settle. Yeah, I think that's right. It's going to take a long time. But that's not to say that this isn't great news. It's not to say that it isn't great news. Oh, I see what I'm reacting to. All right, so I don't know what else to call him. All right, so now I know Grant Stevens is a shill, but I'll leave you up there, Grant, because I'm not positive, but next time you do something that I'm unsure of, I'm going to delete you. Oh, sorry, Grant. I don't mean that. I thought you just put that in again. That I was looking at your old request. Sorry about that. All right. I'm debating whether I should just get off the phone now, or we should keep going. Pete Sessions is putting through voting law. I think it's great. So he is a good guy. I think his voting proposal sounds great. I'm not going to read it out to you. Before that call came, I really wanted to tell you a little bit more about how difficult it's going to be eventually. I don't know when. We're already well beyond any prediction. Okay. As of last year, that's the numbers. Unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable. It's beyond unbelievable. I'm going to go to a different source of information, but according to AI Overview, as of April 2024, the world's top producing oil producer is the United States with 22 million barrels a day. That's just incredible. I had no idea it was that high. Saudi Arabia comes in at 11 million barrels a day, which I think I can't believe it's that high. And then Russia comes in at 11 million barrels a day. I can believe that one, but I don't know how sustainable it is. Canada came in at fourth at 6 million barrels a day. And Brazil is expected to become the world's fourth largest producer later on. But look at this. In 2023, Saudi Arabia's crude oil production declined by 900,000 barrels a day, 900,000 barrels a day. So how are they still doing what they're doing? I don't know. I'm going to go to a different source. I'm going to go to U.S. Energy Information Administration. We can always trust them. It's taking a while. So what I'm seeing here is the United States single-handedly has bought more time for the world. They show the United States at 22 million, Saudi Arabia at 11, Russia at 11, somebody else, Canada at 6. All right, I'm going to stop this. I don't know why it's so hard to, everything is so slow. All right. So according to the EIA, as of some point, April of 2024, the United States, I'm amazed by this. The United States produced 22 million barrels of oil. I didn't know that. I thought we were at 13 or 14. So 22 million barrels of oil. Saudi Arabia, 11 million barrels of oil a day. Russia, 10.75, 11 million barrels of oil a day. Then it drops off. Canada, 6 million. China, 5 million, which that's really high. I didn't know they were that high. Iraq, 4.4 million barrels a day. Brazil, 4.28 million barrels a day. So that's coming up because of the subsalt. The UAE is up to 4 million barrels a day. Iran is 4 million barrels a day. Kuwait is 3 million barrels a day. So the top 10 producers of oil produce 75 million barrels of oil a day. The world produces 102 million barrels a day. So the top 10 produce, as ever, almost 80%. It's 75% of the world's oil. I'm sure if you went down to the top 20, it would be around 80%. All right, so the top consumers of oil, and this says, it's got two dates, 22 and down here 24. So I'm going to assume it's the same time frame as that other list. So the top consumers of oil, the United States consumes 20 million barrels a day. That's 20% of the world's total. China consumes 15 million barrels a day. India consumes 5 million barrels a day. Russia consumes 3.7 million barrels a day. Saudi Arabia consumes 3.7 million barrels a day. Japan consumes 3.4 million barrels a day. Brazil consumes 3 million. South Korea, 2.5 million. Canada, 2.4 million. Germany, 2.1. So the top 10 consume 61 million barrels a day. The world consumes 99.9, are you out of your mind, million barrels a day. So the United States produces 22, consumes 20. Saudi Arabia, according to this, produces 11, consumes 3.7. Russia produces 10.75, consumes 3.7. Canada produces 5.76. Canada consumes 2.4. China produces 5.26 million barrels a day. China consumes 15 million barrels a day. So we can quickly see the two biggest economies in the world consume 35 million barrels of oil, but they produce 27 million barrels of oil. So the miracle that's happening in the United States is risky. Anyway. All right, I think what I'm going to do is, because of the big news on MMTLP and because it's late in the day, I think I'm going to end this before I wanted to read about Saudi Arabia, but I just think it's not the right time. All right, here's Winston Churchill. Never, never, never believe any war will be smooth and easy, or that anyone who embarks on this strange voyage can measure the tides and hurricanes he will encounter. Always remember, however, sure you are, that you could easily win. that there would not be a war if the other man did not think he also had a chance. Churchill also said, saving is a fine thing, especially when your parents have done it for you. The big news on MMTLP. Well, I didn't write it all down, but basically, West Christian et al. Won in court for meta materials in a bankruptcy court for meta materials. They won their request for discovery, subpoena, depositions, and I don't know the overlap between meta materials shareholders and MMTLP. I think it's different. I would imagine that it may or may not be a subset. It may be similar size sets of shareholders, but they just share, they just cross over for just part of the list. So it's really about MMAT, not MMTLP. However, as you know, these shorts started under Torchlight. So the discovery, the criminality, the collusion, all of it, all of the crimes will all be intertwined. So it is MMTLP, it is Torchlight, it is MMAT, and my understanding is there's yet another security that I have no idea what. The criminals sold everything down, everything. So that's the good news. And it's you can go to Twitter, Junk Savvy on Twitter. I'm sure you can go to Busy or 100 or Curtis or Big JR or Syntax, or I mean, there's hundreds, but you know, what occurs to me is you could go to Junk Savvy's chain and get her description of what it was. We shall never surrender. That's Winston Spencer Churchill. That's right. Trump quotes Churchill. I don't know if he intends to, when he says, never give up. Never give up. Ho, do you sell a call during a squeeze? Carefully. I guess you're talking about finger. I guess I would say you'd have to do it with the proper frame of mind. So if you sell a call on finger as it's squeezing, you have to accept that you might lose your stock. So I'll make up an example. Let's say you sell the 100 calls on finger motion for $2. And the stock's trading at 70, and you can't believe how lucky you are. And then the stock sits there for a while, and the next day it opens at 200. In a squeeze, I personally would expect that you could get exercised. And you're going to say, well, don't they have to wait till the last day? No, they don't. They can exercise at any time. So I would expect, let me make sure I'm telling you the truth on that. I mean, it's rare, but I think you can get exercised before expiration date. I'm hesitating because I actually can't remember a time it ever happened in any of my accounts. So maybe I'm wrong on that. Anyway, I would just be worried. I think it's a small chance. I'd be worried about that in a squeeze. So I'm having second thoughts on that point. So maybe it's not an issue. All right, so that's 1. 2, the premiums will move around unbelievably. So if you sell the calls, the 100 calls for 2, stocks at 70, that's it. I think that's a great trade. By the time they expiration date, you may have a decision to make. If the stock stays at 70, you could buy back your calls or just let them expire worthless. But if the stock's at 150, you may just let your stock go and reestablish a position. So you run the risk of limiting your upside. But if you sell calls, and bring in a premium, you got to pay attention afterward, or not. I mean, if you just sell them, you just let it go, and que sera, that's fine too. But if the stock, let's say you sold the hundreds at 2, the stock's trading at 75, and the stock pulled back to 25, so the hundreds went to 10 cents, buy them back. Don't let it go so the stock could run back up. Go ahead and book your profit and then try to do it again. Anyway, the only third point I'd make, I would probably, it's an art, not a science, but I would probably sell the closer in calls. But it might be the farther out calls might have more premium. Anyway, you can do it. I would use limit orders, but you don't have how many calls are you going to sell? I mean, if you have 10,000 shares, maybe you got to sell 100,000 calls. But if you have 1,500 shares, you're only selling 15. You can do it. You can open your app, fill it all in. They give you the bid and ask. Make sure the bid checks and hit send, and you'll be done. But it'll be volatile. Well, I'm going to Google that one question. Can options be exercised before expiration? Yeah, see, I was right. Yes, American style options can be exercised at any time before expiration. European style can only be done on the expiration date. So I would be careful of that. If you do sell calls in a squeeze, I think that your stock could get called away from you before you have the optionality of buying back your calls and doing other things. So if you sell calls, just plan on letting it ride, is what I would say. All right, 4:49. I think I'm going to sign off because I'm tired, and what I did want to talk about, I don't think there's enough time, so we'll do it tomorrow. So I'm going to say good night to everyone. Peace. Good news on MMTLP. And I'm sure tomorrow, Junk will have a call. I'll see if I can get Anna on here. That'd be a treat if she'd do it. All right. Peace, everyone.